And we're live. All right. How you doing, Leo?
We are live. I am doing well. It's Sunday. It's God's day. And today was not a very pleasant game for the Toronto Raptors as they drop another one, as DJ Kelly likes to say, another one against the Golden State Warriors, 126 to 110. Not a good
No
start
Steph
to the
Curry.
first quarter. No Steph Curry, no Andrew Wiggins. Obviously, the Raptor announcers will tell you that they're missing four players as well. But bad start to the first quarter. You lost that by 10. That's not how you want to set the tone early on. You lose a second quarter, you lose a third quarter, and then at the end, you put in garbage points when the game's already over. But yeah, it
They
wasn't a good
trailed
look,
wire
man.
to wire in this one, and it never felt particularly in grasp. And what we're going to do today, right now, for those of you who are slowly populating in, is we're going to break down the game for about, let's say, 7, 8 minutes. We're going to talk about what we
Right.
saw, what we liked, what we didn't like, what we think is going wrong. Then we got a treat for you guys. As promised, we're going to do a film session. We're going to look at the Raptors offense, how it used to be when it was functional, when it was working with Kawhi, Marc Gasol. We're going to show you things, slow it down. We're going to break down the film. Those of you who are familiar with these post-game lives, you know that there's usually little bits of nuggets and stuff to the back end. This time we're going to put it at the front end. And then towards, let's say, about 9:40ish, 9:35, we're going to start taking call-ins, and Leo's going to have to go to church, but yeah, so I'll be answering your questions then. So first, let's talk about the game. We got this screen wide open. So what sticks out to you?
For me, Siakam is the polarizing guy that's going to stand out to you on the box score, right? 27 points, 6 assists. It goes with what he's doing. At least statistically speaking, he was a minus 17, and I'm not a big plus minus because that metric is so skewed in so many ways.
Right.
But it felt accurate today because of how the game went. Like his impact wasn't a true 27 points, if that makes sense to
Mm-hmm.
some people. Yes, he shot 3 of 5, but a lot of these shots, as did Fred's shots, and obviously Scottie had plenty of mistakes as well, and we'll break it all down. But these shots weren't within the flow of the offense, which is funny because we'll talk about this in the film session and how the Raptors are consistently playing a very ugly 24-hour fitness type or LA fitness type of brand of basketball. I was actually texting Robert throughout the game and kind of just, specifically pointing out how the Warriors came into this game totally disrespecting their shooting. Like they're like, we know y'all can't shoot, so we're just
Well,
gonna plug.
that's we're gonna get into that in the film
Right.
session. I thought Scotty Barnes missed some bunnies at the rim, right? Like
Yeah.
some just halfway down, and it's just there was a layup. It was like almost open for him, and he just missed it. I like the aggression from Scotty. This is three games in a row where we don't see passive Scotty. We see more aggressive. He's hunting mismatches in the post. That back down on Dante DiVincenzo. That was astute. I mean, I'm surprised. The Raptors announcers called it. But like the Raptors don't have shooters. Why are they not collapsing on that? And that's also a good segue to our film session. I liked what I saw from Malachi. He's a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more shifty than the guards we usually play. I think
Right.
he can break his man down a little bit. His shots at the rim don't feel as forced or as awkward as Fred's. Um, I understand. To those of you in the comments, are going to say this guy had a bad game. This guy had a bad game. I think
Right.
this is a team loss. Like I think this
Yeah.
is like a wire to wire
100%.
team loss, right? Um,
100%. 100%, man. Again, Scotty Barnes had a little bit of his moments today, but he did have 3 turnovers. And actually, it came, I believe, on one of those back downs where he was kind of unsure of himself because he wanted certain guys to cut and they
yeah,
didn't because he knew that that 3-point shot was there, but he also knows what the weakness of this team is, and it's
yeah.
shooting. So he doesn't.
Can we look at the shot chart for both teams on the game cast?
Yes, we can. Game cast.
Because, I mean, the Raptors hit 13 threes. I don't know if you've been following this team, but that's actually like halfway decent. Obviously, the Warriors shot more, and made more, but I mean, you get 13 threes. I mean, this is where we're at in Raptors. Like this is where we're at as Raptors fans.
Can you see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
So we need to expand it a little bit.
Let me see.
Zoom into it a little bit. Yeah. So like, yeah, I mean,
here they are.
So the Raptors, it's a lot at the rim, not shooting great percentages from there, right? The Warriors, it's a lot more from three, right? I mean, I like the fact that the Raptors have cleaned up one thing. I gotta tell you, when you look at these shot charts, like usually you see like a flurry of mid-range jumpers for the Raptors. I'm not seeing a lot of that right now. And the guys who are taking it usually are the guys that you kind of want to be able to take those, like Siakam, Van Vliet, and Barnes. It's not a lot of like, I mean, I swear to God, there have been games this year where you like find 6 mid-range jumpers from Chris Boucher and 2 from Banton, and you're just like, what is this team doing? Yeah, I hate to say it, because the Warriors hadn't really won this year without Curry. I believe they were 0-4 going into this, right? And they actually struggled super hard with Curry, but without Wiggins. I mean, if you remember that game against Indiana, where Indiana went into Golden State, right? So again, on their home court, Indiana whooped them without Tyrese Halliburton,
Right.
and they didn't have Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins is a huge part of what they do on defense, guys. Like, I mean, as much as OG Anunoby means to us, the two-way impact of Andrew Wiggins is huge for this team. He's one of the few guys who's, I think, not really having an issue this year. I think Clay has taken a bit of a step back. I think it's been widely talked about. So, yeah, like I just
and now they fall in the standings. They're now 13-17. The Knicks are 17-13. The Sixers, which they'll face tomorrow, are 16-12. We can kind of preview that game, or you can at least down the road. The Nets are 19-12. Obviously, the Celtics are 22-9. So it's a rough division to play in right now, especially with guys in and out of the lineup. And so forth. But even if you look just at the general box score numbers, they outshot you 53-42%, 46-39% from beyond the arc. They had more turnovers, which is a good thing, I guess, because the Raptors
we always
do
force more turnovers, and that's a turnover-prone team. I mean, but why do they have more turnovers? They pass the ball a lot. I mean, it's a function, guys. Like assists and turnovers, there's a reason why point guards are often, incorrectly in my opinion, but often measured on the assist to turnover ratio, because ultimately, if you're going to pass the ball a lot, there's always going to be more opportunities for turnovers. Like Draymond Green passed it to Nick Nurse today. Like, I mean, that was an unforced turnover, but nevertheless, look, I like, I think to sum this up, and we will obviously get more into this in the second part of the show when we do the call-ins, where you guys can, if you want to call in, obviously just a heads up to anyone who hasn't done it before or hasn't been part of these shows. There's a link in the description. You just call in with your phone or your laptop. Just make sure you have half decent audio, and we'll talk to you about what you saw.
Well, they had 21 assists tonight, the Raptors, to the 31 assists. So that's pretty much your ball game.
I mean, in a lot of ways it is, right? But it's also a function of how these two teams play basketball, right?
Yes.
At the end of the day, right? I mean, I think the Warriors had 10 assists on their first 12 made field goals. That's not how the Raptors play. And I mean, look, that's
with or without Curry, all they do is plug in players, just like the Kings do, whether Fox plays or not. You're going to play your split cut action no matter what, which is a lot of screen action off in the weak side, on the strong side. And tonight, we didn't see that. Well, every night, I feel like we don't see that from the Raptors, but yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get into the film session in like a minute. I just want to say that, well, I believe yesterday, I made a show about is Fred VanVleet potentially helping Scottie Barnes, and I wanted to take a tone shift, and I just want to say that I'm trying to be better. Okay, I'm not going to become disingenuous. I know some people were like, no, keep telling the truth, Rob. Look, I don't even know how to lie. I have no idea. I can't do it with a straight face. I'm not going to be able to lie, but what I can do is cut out the tone, is what I'm saying. Like there's a undertone of hostility and anger when you address certain things that really piss you off. And that can turn some people off and be like, oh my God, this guy hates Fred. Yesterday, somebody told me I hate Pascal Siakam. I'm like, oh my God, like I would love to grab beer with this guy. I don't hate him. You think I hate this guy? I hate how he's playing. Okay, this is not a love. This is not hate. Okay, so we're gonna try to clean things up a little bit. We're gonna try to keep things a little bit more objective. It's not going to be sugarcoating anything. Nothing's going to be sugarcoated. Trust me. We're going to call it as it is, but we're gonna cut out the undercurrent and the tone. Now, yesterday in the show, I did say at the end of the show, I said the Raptors are 3 games away, 3 losses away. Like if they lose the next 3, I believe the wheels have officially fallen off. There's a lot of reasons for that. You can definitely go watch yesterday's show and figure out why I feel that way. But this is 1. Now you got 2 left. And I just want to point this out because I've been accusing the Raptors announcers of being mouthpieces for this team for a very long time. And I don't think that that's irregular. Most commentators are technically company men, and they're supposed to tell you what the team wants you to think. Yes. And early on in the year, you were hearing about what were you hearing about? You were hearing about Scottie Barnes is going to take a step up to all-star. Well, unfortunately, that hasn't happened for a slew of reasons. We were hearing about how Fred VanVleet was an all-star player. You've been hearing a lot less of that over the last 5 games. And we were hearing about Pascal Siakam's an MVP. And, when he was out, they were saying, like, they're missing this MVP-level contribution. Well, today, I think you saw the perfect example of one team missing a real, legit MVP candidate, in my opinion, in Steph Curry, and one team having their MVP candidate, and I'm going to avoid calling him a so-called MVP candidate because I just want you to know this isn't real, guys. It's a fabrication. It's a marketing ploy. This is not. If you know basketball, you understand that Pascal Siakam is a very damn good player, but he's not that guy. Don't inflate it, because what happens when you do this, and I consider it bullshit, is you set this guy up to fail.
Yep.
Okay. Because now you're going into a series against Philadelphia, and they have one of those guys, and you don't. And now you're like, well, why can't he do what Joel Embiid can do? And now he's feeling pressure to be something that he never was. Okay. Hell of a player. Don't accuse me of hating. I don't want to hear that. Not hating, just stating there's a gap. There are levels to this. Now let's get into the film session. I'm super excited about this.
Let's see. Here we go.
Okay, so guys, we're gonna slow things down a little bit. Leo does need to get out of here in about 25 minutes, so that's roughly how long this is going to be, or 20 minutes. So this is roughly how long it's going to be. First, we're going to go into how Toronto used to play. Then we're going to show you how Toronto plays now. So let's look at some good old days. I feel like we're reminiscing now. This is okay. This is the good old days, guys. Watch it.
Here we go.
Okay, let me hold on. Go back.
Okay.
Let me see if I can make this screen a little bit bigger for these guys. Hold on. I think that's a little bit better. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a little bit better. Okay.
Okay.
Take us through it.
Okay, so here we see what they used to do real quick, and how Pascal, when they had baby Jesus out here, Kyle Lowry, Kawhi Leonard.
Look at the spacing. Look at the spacing. Those are 3 shooters, guys. Kyle Lowry, Kawhi Leonard, and Danny Green are 3 shooters that you legitimately have to respect at all times. So when the paint actually does collapse, when Siakam sucks in that defender, all those options are wide open. And we're going to see, what happens when the paint doesn't collapse, in latter plays. But what do you see, Leo?
And to be very genuine as well, and not to be disingenuous and like smash this team specifically, is the level of talent that we see on the floor. Pascal Siakam is no longer your best player, right? And I think it's important to really note that.
He's a hell of a lot better than he was back then. He's not playing the role that he was back then. But I think he's a much better player.
That's what I'm trying to say right now. So if you have a Kawhi Leonard, a Lowry, and a legitimate defensive player of the year type of player, and Marc Gasol, then that makes a hell of a difference. So
yeah,
when he attacks the way he does, it's different nowadays.
Let's go into the next play. Yeah, it went in, guys. Okay.
Okay, so they're very quick. They're very quick.
And I mean, okay, here's the effect that you have of a big who can actually shoot.
Yes.
Okay. Marc Gasol was traded for Jonas Valanciunas. Now, Jonas Valanciunas is hell of a 3-point shooter now, but he was struggling back then. He struggled to take them. He struggled to make them. And this was one of the biggest impacts of having Gasol. There are so many plays where Gasol could space to the corner, or he could trail, right? Oftentimes, when you're running in transition, your slowest player, your biggest player is often the last guy to come down to the court. And there is a conditioning in basketball as a big that you run to the paint to protect the paint. This is like bled into almost every single youth big man ever. Christian Coloco, you see it all the time. He doesn't think about the top. He thinks about the paint. You exploit that when you have a big who can consistently hit this break. And I mean, Gasol didn't shoot amazing percentages, but he shot well enough to be positive in this situation. So this is just a quick Marc Gasol practice jumper for all of those interested. There's nothing much to break down here. Just wanted to show the impact of having a guy like this.
And for me, is the attention that or the gravity that a guy like Kawhi will always command, and it's always like 2, 3 guys close to him. That's the gravity that you have with a guy, with a true superstar. Again, not to diminish Siakam or Fred, but this is what a true superstar does in terms of gravity.
Absolutely. Look at how many people are concerned with Kawhi in the post, and they have Draymond Green in there.
Right, 100%.
All right, next up.
In transition.
Now, let's back that up for a second. Just want to quickly point out that so let's look at the full force of how the Raptors are spaced and how Danny Green's intelligence. Now, one thing I'll say, I have often accused this team of being very previous Rob would say they're very stupid. They're one of the stupidest teams in the NBA in terms of IQ. Now, that was considered very offensive. Let me clean that up a little bit. This is one of the least intelligent basketball teams in terms of how they play basic stuff. Look at how Danny Green cuts here to open this up. Look at how all the players space the floor. They're not all loaded up on one side, making it super easy. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, let's go on to the next play.
Once again, the floor spaced out. As you
and I mean, like when you were playing Siakam and Gasol and Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard and Ibaka, what do all those, and Norman Powell and OG Anunoby, do you realize what the Raptors had back then that they don't have now? Every single player could shoot. Siakam was a much better shooter. Larry, I know you had to go to a Christmas party. You're not hearing it, but yes, you mentioned it in a previous show. Siakam used to be an elite corner shooter. That's what we see. There's no hesitation. Look at this. I swear to God right now, sorry to clear my throat there. I'm suffering from a sinus infection. But I guarantee you right now, if this exact same play happens and Siakam has this look, he does not just shoot it. Right now, what he would do is dribble, and he would try to post his defender up there, and he would allow the defense to recover. Because what the Raptors used to do back then, because Siakam, Van Vliet, Powell, I would call like less cerebral players. Boy, that's a great way to say it. You're less cerebral players. That's polite, right, Leo?
Right.
Okay,
for sure.
Less cerebral than Lowry is not an insult. Less cerebral than these elite, minds like Gasol and Kawhi. They weren't decision makers. If you actually go and watch like Siakam, he wasn't a decision maker in the offense at all, even when he was putting up like 27 points. It was like a lot of other people making decisions, and his role was very simplified. Shoot if you're open in the corner, roll, cut. Like, it was simple. And that, when you have a player of his basketball IQ, is actually a very good role for him, right? Like, kind of like what Christian Coloco is doing right now. If you put Siakam in that role, my God, like you would get like 25 points out of that role. But when you start making the guys who are used to finishing, you make them start plays. That's when you start to get in trouble. So, just for those of you at home, being like, whoa, this is starting to sound like Siakam slander. Just ask yourself the question, isn't this the right play? The defense is not respecting him. He's wide open.
Yep.
Take the freaking shot. There's 18 seconds on the clock, but you have actually great position for rebounds. Yeah, he could technically swing it over to Norman Powell, poking in the corner. You could drive and kick it out. Powell was a better shooter, but you're wide open. You want, I think this is a good shot.
And he's not thinking about it.
He's
just
not
playing.
thinking about it. That's important. He's not thinking about it.
There you go. Boom. Let me see here. Okay. Again, the attraction of a true superstar here. You got two guys. Obviously, Baby Jesus is left open here, and Kawhi is scanning the
And
floor.
look at Fred in the corner. That's going to be
Mhm.
important. Okay, let's go through this.
Yep.
First let's watch the whole thing and
Mhm.
just watch it develop, and then we will. So look at all of the attention that he got, and now look at the quick decision that Gasol is going to make. Now, guys, I'm not comparing Scottie Barnes to Marc Gasol, but this is the level of decision making you need to have in an initiator.
Bam.
Now, go back on that play and just watch how Fred moves, right? That's important too. Fred had to relocate. And this has to be part of your schemes. This is when Nick Nurse was coaching the offense. I believe it or not. So those of you who think that Nick Nurse can't coach offense, this is proof. He can coach offense. He's just not doing it right now. So Lowry's going to cut, right? What's that going to do? That's going to force the defense to leave Van Vliet. He was just in the corner, he was just standing there. But now Van Vliet gives Gasol a much better opening for the pass and lights out Van Vliet.
Mm.
Boom.
Open. He's not thinking about it.
Exactly. Like, I mean, some of you might say that looks contested. Trust me, it's not contested. The way he was shooting in that series, it wasn't
Right.
contested. Okay.
Here on the second one, let's just watch it to see how it translates. Oh, I like this.
Look at that. Okay, now this is one of my favorite plays. Honestly, look at the intelligence of and look at the quick decision making of Siakam here. No thinking about it. No, oh, I got to post up. Boom. Simple basketball, simple play. But you got to have decision makers who make quick decisions, right decisions without turning the ball over.
It's just a
Okay.
great. It's just a great touch pass, and again, there's a lot of
Absolutely.
synergy here. Trying to guard Kawhi, and when that
Yeah.
happens,
Yeah.
Siakam looks a lot better because
Absolutely.
his
I agree.
role is optimized.
Absolutely. Okay, now we're going to go into how Toronto plays now. Close your eyes, guys. This is going to be ugly. We're just going to, you know what? I think like look at. Okay, let's go through it. Look at how the Celtics are covering this.
Mm.
Now that was a score, but look how difficult it is to score for the Raptors right now, right? And look at how much they are shading off of the players in the corner. That because when you don't have lights out shooters, right?
Right here, everybody.
I mean, technically you're spaced out, but they're not respecting that on the roll here.
Nope.
And just
that's it. This is a straight line, which is just exactly what they want you to do. They're crowding
exactly,
the
and you're
paint.
attacking strong side. They have 4 defenders there. The correct, I mean, like Scottie Barnes is smart. I mean, in fairness, he is smart. He is attacking a guy that he believes he can take on, but I believe the other Raptors, like the previous iteration of the Raptors, would have attacked from the other side of the court.
100%.
Okay,
like to me, that should have been a charge, but here we go. A DHO here. This is actually not bad. Where you see where it swung to the other side,
right,
for a down screen here.
But you're going to see the consequence of playing 2 non-shooters, Thaddeus Young and Chris Boucher, at the same time. So look at how contested everything is.
This is a bad shot by Trent.
It is a bad shot for sure, but I mean, like, why is there so much attention on him? Because look at Scottie Barnes in the corner.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. You have 4 people packing the paint. OG Anunoby is going for an offensive rebound because he plays with Gary Trent Jr. and he knows this is going to be a miss. Scottie Barnes is probably the only person in the right location. Unfortunately, he's the wrong player to be in that location, right? So the Celtics are able to pack the paint, make your drives impossible. They're going to live with Scottie Barnes shooting jumpers all day, right? Even though he's actually from that corner, he's pretty respectable.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're willing to do it because partly they know that you're not going to pass to him. That's another part of why we say don't ISO ball. It's okay. Now, I want to say, it's not about ISO ball. It's about selfishness, right? It's about not team first thinking. It's not about ISO ball. Isolation can work in the right framework for the right players. But here, I think the right play is obviously to pass out to Scottie Barnes and make the Celtics pay, as opposed to launching this completely contested whatever the hell this is.
I don't know what that was. Here we go. So we see a DHO here. Into a reversal of DHO into a high hammer screen here, which is a high pick and roll. And I don't hate this shot.
I
But
do. I mean, look
okay,
at it. It's double
tell me why.
contested. It's contested from the back. It's contested from the front. And
I
look at how many players are around him. Now let's go back and check this out for a sec. I don't want to override you, but like let's go look at this. Now don't focus on OG Anunoby. Don't focus on the Raptors. Don't focus on. Look at how much the Celtics defense had to work to contest this. They barely had to move, guys. Almost every from when you start this play of the screen that gets OG the shot. How many Celtics had to move more than 4 steps? They're pretty much all standing exactly where they were in the beginning, which means you're not shifting, you're not creating gaps. One of the greatest ways, in my opinion, to get to compensate for your lack of shooting is movement. You got to move and you got to go in transition.
So let me ask you something. Do you
Mhm.
want OG shooting the shot in the mid range?
I mean, it's technically a paint touch, but no, I don't. And I mean, once again, look at Scottie Barnes in the corner, right? Now, that's not a great shot. Yeah, I'll give you that. And Grant Williams is kind of gapping the difference there. So, yeah, maybe, you pass it to Scottie and Grant Williams recovers because, OG's not going to throw a no look or something. But at the end of the day, you're playing, okay, in reality, you're playing like 4-on-5 right now. By parking Scottie Barnes in the corner and then refusing to pass to him because you don't trust him to shoot that shot for whatever reason, fine. Okay, yeah, he's not considered like a three-point shooter. But I guarantee you, if that was Norman Powell in the corner, that shot is going right to the corner for
Yeah.
2019 Raptors.
We even see Chris Boucher point at Scotty as if saying, "Pass the ball to Scotty." Watch. You see that?
Yeah,
But again, I personally don't hate the shot, but the defense is really well set up
I
for
mean,
the
he
shot.
he can definitely see the second. He can. That's
Yeah,
Marcus Smart and Jalen Brown. I mean, you're not
right,
shooting over. You're not shooting over De'Aaron Fox. Like this
right.
is long, lanky defenders. And this is just a one quick play. We don't have to break it down at all. We can just go right through it. And this is what happens when the Raptors run. See?
Hmm.
That's why you attack. Now, this is a quick hitter on how the Raptors stopped Giannis. Just play this out. This is just a bit of an intro on the Jordan rules, right? So this is a snipped from a Thinking Basketball video on how the Raptors built a wall to stop Giannis. And it was sort of borrowed. I mean, we all know that Nick Nurse is a big Phil Jackson fan, right? So one of the things that Phil Jackson's often talked about was how, the Detroit Pistons initially stopped Michael Jordan, and they had these rules, the Jordan rules, right? So the Raptors had Giannis rules, and one of the major things was to crowd his angles, right? So you're going to see here
Jesus Christ,
how
it's so
contested.
beautiful.
Now, if you are a Raptor fan watching this team play right now, how much does the Bucks offense that choked 4 games in a row to the Raptors? By the way, the Bucks, Raptors, and Warriors were pretty much favorites to win the championship that year, per most analytics. So the Raptors faced a real title contender here and beat them 4 straight after dropping the first 2. And this is how they did it. They did it by doing exactly what teams are doing to them now, because Giannis couldn't shoot. And I'll tell you what really made it work. Number one, Giannis wasn't a great passer, which is, I think, something that I would accuse some players on this team of being not great passers. Number two, the Bucks routinely played non-shooters, specifically Eric Bledsoe. And that made this strategy work. Because if you are unwilling to pass to open shooters, and or the defense is willing to live with the open shooters that you would pass to, well, ultimately you win. That's pretty much it. Like, look how contested everything is, and look how congested. Look at the 4 guys. You basically have 4 guys who are able to contest that without any consequence, because the Bucks are playing so many players that and Giannis can't see those passes. He just wasn't a great passer at this point. He's gotten better, but
But to
he
be
wasn't.
fair too, I mean, it's Kawhi guarding you, and you got Kyle Lowry that can come at you at any moment. You have a long Siakam in a different type of role here, which matters as well. It's
I
just
think Kawhi had taken a step back from his San Antonio days. He's still
yeah,
Kawhi
for
Leonard,
sure,
yes.
for
But I
sure.
mean, you have OG Anunoby right now, and I'm not trying to say like they're comparable, but I do think OG Anunoby currently is better than Kawhi Leonard defensively back then. I really do.
Right. Okay, so
Okay, so this is the
now,
final bit.
yep, this is
So,
how Scotty Barnes dominated the Nets.
guys, he had 17 points in the fourth quarter, shot 5 for 5. Okay. Now, let's stop. Okay, can we go back? So for a very long time, I have been saying that this offense needs to run more through Scottie, right? Now, we've seen that a couple of games, the previous 2 games. I think we saw bits and pieces of it now, but I don't think he was really asked to play make. He was asked more to score out of those positions today. However, when you double people, right, like it does open up somebody else. It's just math. The minute you send a double team or a triple team to someone, someone's open. Therefore, people have to move. Now, a lot of the problems for the Raptors offense right now is when Siakam or Van Vliet or Pascal or Barnes are doubled, no one's moving, no one's cutting, no one's flashing to open gaps. However, Juancho, who is one of your smarter players, in my opinion, having been coached in the Spanish national team and just having generally good habits, this is instinctive for him. His defender has his head turned. Yuta Watanabe is, for whatever reason, just completely zoned in because he's still a Raptor in his mind, guys. He's still thinking about this is how we used to guard 5 guys on 1 guy. That's how we guard. We swarm, right? So they're trying to force a turnover, but Scottie Barnes is not going to fall for that. And look at how Scottie Barnes is able to, A, because he's so tall, and B, and he's just able to, he can see it, number one. And that's Ben Simmons, right? Is that Ben Simmons on him? Yeah.
Yep. That's Claxton and Simmons, and that's the difference between when
guys.
Scottie gets doubled as opposed to,
Siakam,
a potential Van Vliet or Siakam.
Exactly.
So here we go.
Boom. Easy. Just quick. That was the point of that play. It was just quick. The minute the pass gets to him, no gather, no dribble, playing around with it, nothing. The minute you do that, every time you dribble the ball, and you guys, you might say, well, Siakam just gathering momentum into a shot. No, every single time you hold the ball without the purpose of doing something with it, which is just you're just scanning. And especially if you're not a great passer. Sometimes, Scottie, you'll see dribble, and then he'll dart. He's just waiting for an opening. That's all.
That, and he knows that there isn't a true shot blocker, which, again, I hate to say this, but it reminds me a lot of Giannis in the sense that his strides are so long, and
exactly,
it's just a beautiful thing to see because not anyone can do this. Like, if this is Fred,
but how
there's
does
no way
work?
that he gets here.
But how does this work? Because Joe Harris can't pack the paint. He still has to respect Malachi. Number one.
Correct.
Number two, you have to respect Scottie Barnes as a passer. See, if that was Gary Trent Jr., I guarantee you the scouting report is out on these guys, by the way.
Yeah.
If you're wondering why what the Raptors are doing earlier in the season isn't working right now, it's because teams know how this team plays now. They're playing a little bit different than they were last year. And the team knows. This guy grabs the ball and he starts going, he's not passing. So now another defender can come. So when you cheat the game and you play bullshit basketball, this is what happens. However, this time, Scottie Barnes gets right to the basket because you always respect Scottie Barnes that he's willing to make the extra pass.
Correct.
Now, can we rewind that one more time and I just want to show one more thing?
The last play?
Yeah. One last time.
Okay.
Hold on. I just want to respect your time. You got to be out of here in 3 minutes, right? 3-4 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So just go back one sec. Look at how KD jumps out to him. Go out to the 3-point line. Back. He does. Okay, you know what? It's that's not the right play for that. We're gonna go to the next
this
play.
one right here.
Yeah.
You good?
So he does respect him. Like he does react to him catching the ball out there, right? Which means he is sort of playing him that he could shoot. So I want you to understand that, like, as we look at the next few plays, the Nets played Scottie Barnes like he could shoot. That's actually how this happened. They picked him up higher. So we can just play this play out and just go to the next play. And stop for a sec. Okay. Go back. And let's just freeze it at the point of like the initiation.
Okay.
Go a few frames forward. Look at Juancho. Look at Juancho right there. What does he do? He gives. This is guys. Honestly, if that was Chris Boucher, I promise you he stays there. I promise you, he will stay there because he's thinking the wrong thing. He wasn't taught this right way to play. This is the right move. Juancho spaces out, right? So Scottie has ISO. And what is the difference, guys? He's attacking weak side. That's one-on-one basketball. And he's playing with 4 guys who can shoot. Siakam technically is the weakest shooter of these guys. Malachi is a shooter, Fred's a shooter, and Juancho, when he's in the dunker spot, he's just in the way. But what we're going to see is he's going to space out, and that's what's going to give Scottie Barnes the advantage here. Look at that. His defender had to trail him.
Yep.
Now he's not a helper, and now he's just got Kevin Durant in there, and maybe Royce O'Neal is able to react. But they gave him 1-on-1. Let's go to the next one.
Right, and at this point, this is confidence, Scottie. He doesn't care if it's Kevin Durant, if it's Ben Simmons.
Exactly.
That's just confidence at its finest, and that's why we keep pleading that the offense just ran through him.
Okay.
And this is probably like the moment where I'm just like, oh, and I was texting, I'm so proud of this guy. Here we go.
That was his welcome to the NBA moment.
Yeah.
Talk shit to Kevin Durant.
Lower his shoulder. That's purely legal. And he uses strength, his length, and he just, my gosh.
And then the next play, there's 2 more plays. One's against we go to the next one.
He got it in his face,
oh, don't worry. We show him skipping. I love the skipping. Just play it out. skip. Talk your shit, Scottie. Okay.
This is gorgeous.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you go back, look at how high Ben Simmons picks him up. But look at the other 4 players, guys. Look at the other 4 players on the court. Is there anyone clogging the paint right now? No, it's wide open. And he just gets 1 step. When you have the length and the legs, Scottie Barnes. When you have the perceptive quickness of a Precious Achiuwa or Pascal Siakam, to be honest, Scottie Barnes and OG Anunoby have pretty similar profiles physically. You have 4 guys who could do this all day. The only difference is Scottie's probably the best passer of the bunch, but they could all take their guy off the bounce from 25 feet if the defense would just respect them from 25 feet. And if the other Simmons 4 guys would correspond.
And this is Ben Simmons, by the way.
Yes, Ben Simmons. Like, legitimately the guy that I believe 2 years ago was the defensive player of the year. I mean, and he's still hella good, guys. You need to check the analytics on him. He's a great defender.
So this is just, again, great spacing and a very confident Scottie Barnes.
Yep.
It's a different version of Scottie when you put the ball in his hands. And what I like, too, and I'll give Fred credit, he was looking for him at this point. Because at this point, he actually trusted him. And it wasn't one of those, like, fake trust moments. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like, that matters to me.
And then we just play out the last play. It's pretty much an extension of the same thought, same process, same idea. It's Yuta Watanabe. Again, spaced out, right? That should be the end of the video, shouldn't it? Yeah, it should be. It's cool. Yep. Yeah. That's it.
Beautiful.
Awesome. All right, man.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for everything, and I hope you guys have a great time calling in. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you. Okay, guys. Now we are able to take your calls. Just give me 1 second to set this up. Big shout outs to Basketball Zone. Make sure to hit subscribe on Basketball Zone if you haven't already. Leo does stuff like this for his channel all the time. It's got a lot of King stuff, a lot of Raptor stuff, so make sure to give him some support. I really couldn't have done that without him because it's really hard for me to navigate, plus see the chat, plus do all that stuff. So it really helped a hell of a lot. All right, so to those of you interested in calling in, you can call in from, let's see. You can call in using this link right here. I'm going to put it in the description, but you see it in the description and just put it in the chat. And did someone say Chev is calling in? I highly doubt it, but okay. All right. First up, we got Daryl. Daryl, how are you?
Hey.
In the car. Nice audio. What's up?
Yeah, I think I got the camera and the audio working today, so finally.
Nice.
We got that going. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What'd you think of the game? How do you feel? I mean, besides the obvious.
How do I feel?
Yeah. Like your feeling.
Okay. So I promised to keep this show upbeat, so I'm not going to tell you that I cried into a pillow. I'm not, because I mean, obviously this was expected for me. I did expect this. I expected this yesterday, but I will tell you that if you're gonna show your colors, I would much rather you show your colors in December than April. That's it. Okay,
Yeah.
you
I
know
agree.
me. You know me. You know what I've been ranting about for the last 2 months, right?
Yep.
And it has been very unpopular. And I told people, and this is kind of like, give me a 1 minute to be arrogant for a second. I told everyone, I'm usually right, but I'm usually early. Okay.
Yeah.
So
No, that's true. That's true.
like last year I told you guys Fred VanVleet wasn't really an all-star, but ultimately he shot the hell out of the basketball. And then later on, by the time he started shooting it worse, people were like, yeah, like they forgot that you were telling them like 4 months ago, don't buy this, right? It's telling the same thing about Siakam this year, and this team and this offense, it doesn't work. Today we just saw the Raptors lose to a very depleted Golden State team. In all honesty, I mean, if you look at the guys who were on the court, yes, Draymond Green is still awesome. Klay Thompson is not Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is not one of the top 75 players in the NBA right now, in my honest opinion.
He's a shell. He's a shell.
He's a shell of himself. I hate to say it, one of my favorite players of all time. I love Klay Thompson, but this was bad. And he's had a bad season. But they were able to basically, Draymond Green beat them today in so many ways. In so many ways. And
Jermichael Green, the two Greens beat the Raptors today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would rather that they see it now. And I mean, like the fact that the Raptors announcers are saying, like, I mean, they could have just said, "Hey, by the way, there's this guy in Europe. His name is Victor Wembanyama, and he's cool." And they could have just dropped that, as opposed to being like, "Hey, by the way, like, look, right now we just saw two of the most successful franchises over the last 10 years, right? One of them reset, and quite frankly, I don't think that they got enough for the shit that they put the Warriors fans through. I mean, James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, that's what you walked away from with all that. I don't think that's worth 2 years. But if the Raptors decide to reset in a couple of days and they make an organizational decision that, as I mentioned in my show yesterday, like if you realize that the best case outcome is 7th or 8th, you need to pull the plug on the season, because we don't like that team is not beating the Celtics or the Bucks.
No, we do not want to play in. I mean, it's better to tank than make the play in at this point. There's no chance. Yeah, I'd like to comment on a couple of my observations.
Sure.
Real quick.
Absolutely.
First of all, I've been noticing there's been a bit of chatter about the 2-point guards that Nick Nurse has been running with the last 2 games. And people are saying that they either don't understand it, or other people are saying, well, it's about time, And I thought about it, and I figured out why Nick Nurse is running with the 2-point guards right now, and that is because Fred VanVleet plus Malachi Flynn equals 1 point guard. So the Raptors now have a point guard in their backcourt, because each of them is like half a point guard, but you put them together and it equals 1. So like
is Scottie Barnes at least half a point guard in your estimation? Because I think he's at least half.
No, I he is. I'm on the Scottie for point guard wagon there. I think that he'll tighten up his handle, and he'll make the actual skills adjustments that he needs to be able to beat guys. But I mean, his head
can adjust. Skills can adjust.
His head.
I don't think mindset can.
That's the thing. He's a point guard in his head, and that's the most important part of being a point guard, right?
Absolutely.
So absolutely, I agree with that. Yeah. So like actually together, like Fred had a good box score game, and Malachi had a good box score game, and together they scored 38 points and added 10 rebounds and 10 assists with 2 steals and 2 turnovers. So they had a Russell Westbrook evening on a good night.
Together combined.
Together, nice. They had a good Russell Westbrook evening.
But I think
together,
they took like over 70 minutes to get there, unfortunately.
Exactly.
I mean, Malachi playing 36 minutes. By the way, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a Raptor. I could be wrong. Other than Trent, maybe 36 minutes off the bench. When's the last time you saw that? That's crazy. I mean, I'm happy. Look, I'm happy for Malachi.
Yeah.
If nothing else, there's a silver lining. He has just, I mean, if you're kind of showing him off right now for a trade, I think what he's shown you the last 2 games is that he didn't deserve to be buried on this bench.
No.
With the way that Fred started, this season, like shooting 2 for 12 and stuff, there were plenty of opportunities. And I know that Nick Nurse said that, oh, we were disappointed that we didn't get him in sooner. It's like, yeah, so are we. Like, we have been calling for Malachi Delano and Jeff Doughton to get a shot. Like, instead, you're running Fred VanVleet into the ground with like 43 minutes, and it's not sustainable. And, kudos to Fred VanVleet, for trying to put the team on his back a couple of times. But there's an upward limit to how you can out hustle, but at some point you just run into a talent wall, right? It just
That's it. Yeah. Well, I missed last game. I told you against the Nets, and I saw Malachi's numbers, and it looked good. But I remember I even asked you if he was still taking contested, difficult shots and just hitting them, or if he was actually making good plays, taking good shots. And so
certain models that they prioritize.
Yeah, and I was getting into a little bit of a discussion with a guy on the Facebook group about Malachi, and I was saying that I hope that he gets his minutes to showcase and prove who he is, because being buried on the bench, we don't know who he actually has become. We see little bits and pieces, but I think a game like today does show who Malachi is. And I don't dislike him. I think that Malachi Flynn is an NBA player, but I don't think that he's a good fit on this team, and I think today showed that.
I get you.
He was good. He was good from 3, though. Gotta say.
I think he has a little bit more burst, athleticism, creativity than certain other players. And I mean, if you like a scoring guard, a microwave guy off the bench, there's definitely a role for that in the NBA. Some people called him Red VanVleet, and I think that's for good reason. And he has been a good understudy of Fred VanVleet, and I think if you as an organization want to keep this guy, I think we saw it in Tampa in the last month. He can do some stuff for you. He can be competitive. He's an NBA player, guys.
At the end of the day, I think so.
The Raptors, they missed on a really good player right after him, and I will never forget it, because he's one of the 25 to 30 best players in the NBA right now. But at some point, you just have to realize, like, picking consistently. Okay, yes, you missed on the pick. Okay, granted, we will agree on that. And if they can go back and again, they would definitely pick somebody else. But you still drafted an NBA player at 28.
I agree. Yeah.
There are a lot of teams that pick like guys at 28 who never play like 2 minutes in the NBA ever, right? Or they fizzle out of the league. Malachi is going to be an NBA player for like 8 to 10 years, guaranteed.
And I think that when you want a scoring guard, especially a guy who's a bit on the undersize, you need a guy that the more he holds the ball, the more space he creates for himself. Right. But with Malachi, he runs out of space. The longer he holds the ball, the more and more he actually runs out of space. And I think if he can correct that, he'll be super valuable, even on the Raptors. But to me, that's his biggest issue, is he runs out of space. And then, like, he hit a big 3 today at the end of the third, I think it was. Yep. And there were 2 defenders in his face, literally on top of him, and he managed to get the 3, but it drove me nuts. You there?
I'm there. I'm sorry. I'm suffering from a sinus infection, so I may periodically skip out to blow my nose. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Sorry, like the last pod, I sniffled through the whole thing, and people were like, "Okay, like, okay. I'm sorry, guys. I'm actually kind of sick, but I promise we're gonna stay as long as we need to talk this game out, and I promise I'm not gonna let it hold me back from being super funny and entertaining, and hopefully a little bit uplifting and insightful at the same time." Daryl from Taiwan, thank you so much, and thank you for always providing insights. The Raptors pride themselves on being a global team, and I think these shows are really proving that.
All right, man. I'll be watching the rest of the show and looking forward to the next callers. Have a good one.
Cheers. See you, Daryl. Next up, we got Mo. Coach Mo, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So it's not good. The losses are piling up. So
they are.
Yeah, and the first quarter was kind of hard to watch. I want to say, first of all, I like Fred. I think he's a really good basketball player. So This isn't a bash Fred thing. I just thought in the first quarter there was a lot of he resorted back to the over dribbling that went away after the first quarter.
Right.
this all goes back to, again, when you guys, you and Leo did your contrasting of the championship team and how they play, and then this team.
Yep.
The main difference is there's a lot of high IQ guys on the former team with a lot of experience. They've had deep playoff runs, so as individual players, and then they came together, But today, like, there was plenty of times where Scottie was being guarded by Poole or DiVincenzo.
Right.
And those guys are smaller than Royce O'Neal. And we saw what Scottie was doing to Royce O'Neal. We saw what he was doing to him. And I just feel like the Warriors were going to rely heavily on Poole since Wiggins and Curry were out. So he's de facto their best offensive player.
Right.
That guy needs to be abused on offense because he can't guard anything.
Right.
And if you're just going to let him score 40 and not have to play any defense, you're not going to win many games. I think you have to abuse, like, the way it reminds me of how the Cavs won the championship. They put Steph Curry in every action.
Right.
And they said, you are going to have tired legs. We are going to abuse you. And when you try to score, you're going to either be in foul trouble, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to be arguing with the refs. But you can't let players who are elite at one thing play one side of the ball, especially when they're guarding Scottie Barnes. I just thought there were plenty of opportunities to play through Scottie. And it wasn't to feature Scottie, but also was a double-edged sword and taking away their one offensive threat. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I would have.
No, I agree. And look, at some point, as I've always said, shot diet and low IQ do catch up with you, right? If you consistently make the wrong plays, it's going to work until, teams figure out that you consistently make the wrong plays. And then they're going to basically start hedging against you making the right play ever, right? And so it's almost like surprising when an open shooter in the corner is found in this offense, right? Guys have to literally point, like 3 guys. But then the minute they have to do that, the defense sees it too. They recover, There were a few times early. Now, I know Siakam had, box score-wise, a decent game.
Yes.
But
I was surprised to see his box score numbers. I was actually surprised.
I was too. Because when you actually watch the game, which, I had an observation. There's a flow to the basketball. It needs to flow. It needs to move. It needs to go to the right places. There's a brilliant example of Draymond hitting that skip pass, right? Completely shifted the defense. They completely forgot about that guy. Hits it in the corner. It forces the defense to shift. This is how you counteract, a defense that's really dialed in on one side. Is you make them pay by, making the skip pass to the other side. And then there was just like so many times where Siakam would get the ball, and he would take like an extra second to think about what he was going to do. It happened once in transition. There will be no low light video of this film, guys. I'm sorry. I feel like at this point I'm depressing myself making those. But I think it's getting repetitive. It's the same issues, right? A guy who, takes a second to survey the floor. This is my biggest pet peeve with Chris Bosh. He always used to do this. Just grab it in the mid post, and then he used to turn around and you'd be like, okay, now what am I going to do? How am I going to attack it? And it's like, all you do every time you do that is you allow the defense to know that what you're about to do, especially if you're not a good passer out of the situation. So I think there was like a flow to the game in the first 8 minutes. And every time Siakam touched it, that flow kind of ended. Because he would either make a pass to somebody's ankle, or he would hold the ball for an extra second, and it would just kind of not, go where it needed to go. And it would allow the defense just that one extra second to recover. And especially when that happens in transition, where you have a huge advantage and you need to push it to the rim and make really snap decisions. And yeah, sometimes it's going to lead to a turnover. It's going to happen. When you make quick decisions, sometimes, like you'll see Scottie Barnes just grab and then push, right? People were very upset that turnover that he had at the end of the game the other day. But I mean, that's the speed at which you have to learn to make plays. And you can't just slow down your thinking because you're afraid of making a turnover, because that's just the way losers play basketball, in my opinion.
But I also think the team is now starting to take the character of their two leaders and best players, as you could say, in Fred and Scottie, whereas opposed to the other side with Golden State.
Fred and Scottie.
Fred and Pascal, sorry. And on the other side, Golden State, it's Clay. Curry's not playing, but it's Clay, it's Draymond, and it's Looney. They're 3 most senior players that were on the court today. They're ball movers.
I would argue that Clay is a bit of a chucker right now, but Draymond is absolutely.
He chucks. At least he does it quickly. and he
That is
has
fair.
the
That is fair.
capability of making those shots, and he has the history. But I agree, Clay has he's fallen off a cliff. But and another thing with this team is Boucher is struggling immensely the past couple
Mhm.
games. Koloko can't even make a layup at this point. He's struggling immensely. Pascal is missing bunnies. Scottie's missing bunnies. We're missing a lot of shots at the rim. We're missing shots from the perimeter. It's almost like you throw your hands up sometimes because it's like even when we get good looks, we don't make them.
Right.
And Coach, I actually thought Nurse, he kind of threw his hands in the air when I saw a lineup of Fred and uh, Flynn and Delano on the court at the same time. I chuckled to myself. I said, this guy, he's searching for something. He's searching for anything.
Well, he didn't find it, unfortunately, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's like offensive structure, offensive principles, philosophy are supposed to take a lot of the thinking out of basketball, right? So, if the ball is swung, one guy's supposed to cut, cross, the other guy's supposed to pick, the other guy's supposed to come, flash in the paint. Like these principles of your offense need to be fairly consistent because that way, that's why we run plays. That's why we have offensive systems, right? It needs to take the guesswork out of it for your side so that it can make your offense at least a little bit more structured and take all of the decision making. Sometimes you have too many decisions. It's like, to wax poetic a little bit about life. Like sometimes you wake up and you're like, okay, I need to mow the lawn. I need to clean the kitchen. I need to, finish this fax. I need to finish this email. What do? You panic and then you just go back to bed because you're like, I have too much stuff to do, right? You need to make a list. There needs to be order, and that pecking order, that we always talk about, this egalitarian offense. Egalitarian offenses work with five very smart and unselfish players.
Yes,
That's how it works. It cannot work with a ball stopper, especially when you have 3 to 4 ball stoppers. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if at this point, like Masai Ujiri just kind of chuckling in his back room, being like, hey, do you think anyone realized we were trying to tank this season? Because it's like, dude, this is basketball that's designed to lose. I'm actually surprised they have as many wins as they do. I really am. I'm genuinely surprised they've won as much as they have playing this way. Yep. It has taken some Herculean performances from Pascal and Fred and Scottie and whoever else and OG, like some crazy, and I mean, like, again, these things balance out over a season, guys. Sometimes you'll see a guy like DeMar DeRozan has started the season out averaging like 32 points per game. Yeah. It doesn't last. It doesn't last. It's not sustainable. And everyone jumps into the, oh my God, is DeMar DeRozan an MVP? That happened last year. Same thing happened with Siakam this year.
Yeah.
And it's like, these things aren't sustainable. You take the good with the bad, right? But at the end of the day, the thing that's supposed to sustain you are your defensive principles, your offensive principles. Yeah. Any final thoughts, Mo?
I think the whole 6ix9ine project, getting a bunch of long, athletic guys who can't shoot and don't understand the game at a high level, that thing will sort of start catching up with you.
What's interesting? The Magic are playing almost exactly the same way, and they just beat the Boston Celtics twice.
I know. I mentioned it. I saw it.
And
I think they have more structure. I think they have more structure.
They definitely have a lot more structure.
Because their coach is barking. Their coach barks at them.
But like, are we at a point where we're now questioning whether Jamal Mosley is a better coach than Nick Nurse? I mean, like, are we going to have that discussion at some point, during this show? I mean, look, we'll get into it later in the show for sure. I'm sure someone's going to want to come on and vent and say that they're a better coach than Nick Nurse and stuff.
Yeah,
so
that was the one thing with Casey. I was never a big fan of Casey, but what Casey did was he gave DeMar and Lowry way too much freedom, but he boxed everyone else in. He gave them a rigid, and I think that might work. We might need a little bit more of that, where we need to box people in a little bit more.
I think if you're going to play this way, you need a better engine at the end of the day. And I think Scottie, for all of his flaws and whatever, could be, I think, a better engine. If you put the right pieces around him, if you put shooters and active movers around him, like put guys like Juancho around him, I think you'll get. I don't know if you'll get wins. I don't know that for sure because there might be too much catastrophically wrong with this team. But if this team is on the verge of blowing it up, and someone from the team watches this, because I've seen some stuff being implemented, and I'm always curious to know if this show is having any impact on anybody. But one thing I will say is, if you are trading out pieces and you're trying to bring in pieces, please bring in shooters, movers, smart people who are over themselves, people who run well in transition. I think these are the types of pieces you need, especially if you're going to run around Scottie or Pascal, whoever you're building around. I don't really care at this point. Just put the pieces around these guys to be successful. Anyways, Mo, thanks a lot for calling in. Next up, we got Chaz. See you, Mo. Chaz, wearing your Raptors gear. Is that an Adidas hat or a Raptors hat? Oh, it's a Raptors hat. Nice.
Archive. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
Yeah. Good show again.
Thank you.
You know what? Imagine this, Robert. Imagine being 100 feet up in center court.
You were there?
Tonight's game. No.
Okay.
100 feet right above center court.
Okay.
With a game tape, and watch the little ants run around. Okay. Watch the difference between the Raptors movement and the Golden State Warriors movement. Now, I just want to say, I was looking forward to this game. And I put in the thread earlier, I said, I'm glad, because this is how you're supposed to play basketball, the way the Warriors play basketball. This was bench mob 2017. The way those guys moved the ball, Jakob moving away from the ball, picking. There's a 1 or 2 man game going on with Toronto right now with the Raptors. And there's a 5-man game going on with Golden State. Right. You can't defend that. You can't, especially if you got somebody that can break it down like Poole. All right. So, to me, I won't stay on long because, I think it's like I can't watch this shit anymore. They're just horrible. They're really horrible to watch. It is ugly. And they're good guys. And I think Nurse has got a lot of blame right now. I don't know what he's holding on for. And I don't think they're tanking. And I disagree. I disagree with Mo a little bit in the 6'9" idea. I think that when you get a guy, with a ball, he's looking to pass, and everybody's standing around doing nothing, just standing around, spacing, makes no sense. You got to flash to the ball. You got to have a game away from the ball. You got to run off-screen picks and rolls and get flashed. See that one play where they passed it to the wing, and then all of a sudden he dished it to the guy, and he went in for an uncontested dunk. There was nobody within 15 feet of him. That's basketball. Did you see the
film breakdown in the beginning?
I did. I loved it. Yeah.
That's exactly
but it is. But it's got nothing to do with having a Kawhi on the team. It's got to do with IQ and basketball, intel, and just playing the game. And stop letting this one-on-one shit with Fred and Malachi. I feel bad for him because he's stuck in the same spot. So when you're playing a 1-2 man game and the other team's playing a 5-man game, you're screwed. And we are screwed right now. And that's the way it is. And Pascal's a problem, Fred's a problem, OG's even a bit of a problem when he gets the ball. He wants to go and it's almost like Casey, reborn again. Like he's stuck in the same bullshit. And there's no ingenuity on offense, right? And defense, what can I say? They're shorthanded. OG's one of the best defensive players in the league. I believe that. I agree with you. And you can't stick with these guys. They let up. Steve was nice to Nick tonight. He could have burned us. We could have burned by 40 points in our home court. It was disgusting. It was a terrible game to watch. I'm sorry to say it. I hope you feel better soon. I love your show, and I got the same cold, but I don't have a sinus infection. It's been. I
don't know if it's a cold, but I never even knew what a sinus infection was until I felt my head getting clouded. During the stream last time, and I was like, "What is going on here?"
Yeah, it's cold. Yeah, you get a bit of a cough in a little bit. It's 7.
I didn't get sick for 11 years, and then I busted my ankle, got COVID, and this all in 3 months. It's so weird.
No, you're burning the candle at both ends right now, my friend.
I am, but you know what? I love it, so I don't mind it.
I got something for you coming up. Keep up the good work, and I'll be back to see you soon. But just think about that. Think about the top down, looking down at the game.
You know what? I often used to go to the Sprite Zone and watch the game exactly like that. So I completely know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, man. All right.
Take care.
Okay. See ya.
See you, Chaz. Okay, next up. We got Egos of Para. Hello. are you there? We're going to come back to you if you can fix your mic. Next up, we have MSJ. MSJ, what's up?
Oh, just trying to figure this out.
Did I just hear you?
The last couple games.
I heard a smash sound. Are you really mad at the Raptors? Did you just break something?
No, I just banged my knee against the desk.
Ouch. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. No worries.
Play it off. It's all cool. How are you doing?
Yeah.
What'd you think of the game?
Good. I'm doing good. The World Cup game was exciting.
Yes,
but
congratulations
Raptors,
to Argentina. I can't believe we didn't start the show out with that. Messi wins. I am very happy. Unfortunately, I had a complete brain fart last night, and I was just like, my betting app gave me a $25 free bet, and I was just like, I'm gonna park it on Argentina to win, and then I basically walk in, and I'm like, oh, like they win, but then I had never bet on soccer before, and I did not realize that you actually have to call it at the end of regulation time.
Yeah.
Sucks, but yeah, it's all good.
I don't bet. Yeah, I stopped betting money on sports a long time ago with Pro Line. Too many. I was no good at it. But
it's unpredictable as hell. But like I have been actually consistently good at it. I bet Magic Warriors tonight. That was my bet. Believe it or not.
Oh well.
Like and I put it in last night when it wasn't clear that Jason Tatum was out. So I was like, oh my God, this just got so much easier. And no one thought like, oh my God, the Magic are going to go in twice and beat the Boston Celtics. And I'm like, watch them. The Magic
on fire,
initially burned me.
Sure.
You know what's funny? Like initially they burned me on the LA Clippers Magic game when I had stacked up on the Clippers. And I was like, you know what, this team, I'm just going to ride the hot streak. And I've just been betting them on every game ever since. Hasn't let me down yet, but I'm sure it'll end soon.
Yeah, don't brag about it or it might let up. That's how it goes.
You know what? James Walsh, shout out. If you're watching, one of the moderators, I guess admin of the Toronto Raptors group on Facebook, has been making a prophecy every single game. And he just says, we're going to win this game, I guarantee it. And ever since he started this, by the way, we have been on a losing streak. So I just want to say to James Walsh out there, thanks for Victor Wembanyama. You keep this up, we're going to lose every single game the rest of the season. So, yeah. What were your takeaways from the game, if you have a couple of takeaways?
I think I called in a few days ago and I said, I think the Raptors are going to turn into a sub-500 team.
Well, they're well on their way,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, and I said that the next 7 games are going to be super key.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole thing with ball movement, or the lack of ball movement, the lack of a half-court offense is, I mean, I got into a big discussion today with somebody on or YouTube comments about Fred VanVleet and how this whole narrative of bet on yourself is sort of like eclipsed in some ways. I think in maybe his mind, like the team. And it just seems like he keeps betting on himself, but he's still shooting 38%. And I'm thinking,
are you putting him in a position to succeed, though, is what I'm asking, right? I mean, okay, he's not the author of the offense, right? He is a big part of the problem. I'll agree with you on that. I'm not gonna shy away from what I've been talking about for the last few months because somebody in a higher place got mad at me for a minute. Like I understand that he's a part of the problem. There's a lot of guys who are part of the problem, right? I think coaching. Look, here's the thing. Previously, I have been very reluctant to blame management for any of this, right? I think someone called in once and they were like, but management deserves some blame for what's going on. And I was just like, hey man, like Masai Ujiri is amazing, like Bobby Lester is amazing, like let's hold it on the court. They put this amazing team together. They couldn't have known that Siakam was going to slip on the floor in Dallas. They couldn't have known that OG Anunoby, well, I mean, they could have known that OG Anunoby was going to miss some time, but they couldn't have known that Scottie Barnes was going to struggle. They couldn't have known that Fred VanVleet was going to forget how to shoot. Like, there's a lot of things that have gone wrong that necessarily weren't, I don't think, projectable. But one thing I will say to management, next time, you're putting a roster together, don't put so many people together who don't have a certain, whose outlook for the next 24 months is not certain. because you're kind of putting people in a position like, look, at the end of the day, like, yes, I resent this concept of bet on yourself. I do. I got into it on a rant yesterday, and I just want to, I don't want to address. I promised yesterday would be the last time I addressed that particular YouTuber.
Well, sorry for bringing it up then.
No. You didn't bring it up.
I didn't mean to.
I kind of went into a weave and I brought it up myself. Like I found a way to bring it up, unfortunately, because it's still festering in my mind. And one of the things that I said was, this channel is about other people. It's always been about other people. It's been about helping other people understand the game of basketball. It's been about supporting the youth. It's about, shining light on cool things that various players are doing. And it's been about, as I said, hearing from you guys, like hearing from the community. It's a very collaborative thing. I'm a naturally collaborative person.
Let me just say something about coaching then.
Sure.
So, like as a player, having a coach that is a guy who's like going to kill you in practice, practice in, practice out, and then expects you to do, superhuman things on the court, game in and game out. I'd like to talk about Chris Boucher for a second then.
Sure.
Because he's a guy you don't talk about, but he's sort of disappeared lately. And he's a guy, I think, where you could kind of get some insight into the coaching style here, where
he makes less than the mid-level exception. What are you expecting of him, right? What are we expecting from him?
Well, it's just that Nurse expects him, if you remember last year, to go out and put 150% into each game, which is great. Sure. But people are human, and they break down. You can't sustain it. And I just see, I don't know. There's so many things that are on my mind about injuries. For instance, if we talk about Chris Boucher, he did have this sort of resurgence, and it was based off of tireless work, but you get tired at the end of it.
Well, there's nothing easy for the Raptors, right? Like even if you look at how Siakam gets his offense, right? Consider how much motion is required from his body, how much contact. It's nearly impossible to sustain that level of beating unless you are honestly like Allen Iverson. And even Allen Iverson, you could argue, like the heavy minutes, the contact, diving on the floor every second play, probably cut his career a little bit short, right? So it is not sustainable to play this way and have a long career, A, and B, it's not sustainable to play this way and expect to be healthy at the end of the year, which is always going to be a bit of a problem for the Raptors because they're expecting to be a good playoff team, which is why, like Nick Nurse probably needs to put down the Phil Jackson book and pick up the Greg Popovich book, as I've mentioned before. He needs to understand that the season is a marathon, not a race, right? And I mean, you race and your horses fall a little bit, and now you're putting, horses that aren't ready into positions that, and I mean, like to just complete my thought from before, honestly, I think management has put this team in a position where it was very projectable that they could fail.
Yeah, burnout, basically.
Right. Because again, as I've been critical of Fred VanVleet, I just want to complete that thought because I kind of almost veered into an off direction. And I feel like those of you who were listening to that were like, where was he going with that? And why did he start? And why did he stop? At the end of the day, if you were in a position to take care of your family, like I remember Kevin Hart saying once, he's like, I took care of my family. I took care of my kids. I took care of my kids' kids. I took care of my kids' kids. Now I'm working on my kids' kids. Right? Generational wealth, especially for people of color, who have been historically, put in a disadvantageous situation. One of the biggest reasons that I'm so passionate about basketball and I don't follow some other sport like soccer or whatever is because this is an issue that's been very close to my heart. When Kyle Lowry talks about players getting paid, I'm all for player empowerment, all for it. Right? I'm not one of those like support management, screw the players, this guy's overpaid. You don't usually hear me talk like that because that's not how I feel in my heart. Obviously, like I believe that if you put $1 billion in the hands of someone like Scottie Barnes, that's $1 billion not in the hands of the person who paid him. Right? If you're thinking about big picture here, it's a great thing. So how can I, fault Fred VanVleet for wanting to get paid? Obviously, right? I fault the situation, the system that allows him to chase it in this way. Because there are a lot of guys who want to get paid, but they're accountable. They're held accountable, right? You don't think Steph Curry and Kevin Durant want a good contract? Of course they do. All these guys have that. But they have coaches that will hold them accountable for the most part. I mean, Durant does it now, but he did at some point. Russell Westbrook maybe wasn't held accountable, but there are a lot of players in the past who've been held somewhat accountable and or they hold themselves accountable. But if you know these players, and Fred VanVleet has come up in your system, Siakam's come up in their system, you know that these guys are aggressively going to hunt their own shots and bet on themselves. How can you not know, given what you know as an organization, given all the brain trust, the talent, and all the intelligence, scouting, just data you have on what this type of play style leads to? How could you not know this was going to lead to losses? That, to me, is management. Because you could have traded Gary Trent Jr. You could have, here's a bunch of things that management could have done, right? You could have signed Fred VanVleet. You could have shown the faith of confidence and just said, okay, we know your body might break down, but you mean a lot to our organization. You were vastly underpaid for the first few years because you were a undrafted player, and this is kind of like a we owe you contract, and just made a middle compromise and just given him some amount of money. Okay, now he doesn't need to come out and do this. And maybe he would have gotten surgery if he didn't have to play for a contract, right? So it's like, it's one thing for me to say, okay, well, this guy's playing a really selfish brand of basketball because, ultimately he wants to get paid. But it's like, why should I fault the guy for wanting to get paid? Everybody wants to get paid. Scottie Barnes doesn't want to get paid. Everybody wants to get paid.
I don't fault him for it. I don't fault him for it. I just don't like it. I just don't like the way he runs the half court offense. I don't like his passing ability either. But
absolutely,
I will just say one other thing.
Sure.
If I could just switch to an analogy of a hockey defenseman.
Sure.
Because that's another, stay with me for a second.
I don't skate.
A lot of the best hockey defensemen. Okay, well, I'll just put it plainly. A lot of really good hockey defensemen, like when I was a kid, it was Al McInnes and stuff like that. Okay. They had the size, they had the power, but they were efficient with every move they made. Okay. Skating backwards. They were efficient in everything that they did. And so when you talk about Pascal Siakam not being, it's not that he's not an efficient scorer, but he has to go through 3 bodies to get to the net and he's going to break down. Like a hockey defenseman that takes a career, has a long career.
Right.
That kind of player, they don't do that kind of stuff. They use their strength when they have to, but I don't know. I hope that the Raptors can figure this out because I do think that they have good players.
Right.
I think that they have players. They have players that they can go with. But I'm not sure that it's that leftover from the 2019. I'm not going to name names, but I think they have to say to themselves, like at this point, maybe in 7 games, who's the future?
This is not a political
Who's
scandal.
The future?
You don't have to worry about naming names here. Honestly, my only point was to let's clean up the hostility, but we can still talk about players being wrong about certain things. Obviously, we can obviously talk about that. I just I don't want to get into I hate Fred VanVleet stuff because I don't hate the guy. I feel like I have to say that 15 times. I don't think anyone here hates this guy. And to be honest, if you're out there and you're listening to this pod and you're maybe a little bit frustrated with Fred, and I'm sure I am. I've been all season, and Pascal too, and to some extent Scottie as well. Like a lot of these guys, are not maybe playing to their best ability and or best position. But I will say that in order to sit here for 2 hours and criticize someone, there has to be some level of love. You have to care about this. You have to care about it to some extent. So to anyone who kind of feels like, damn it, I hate him, it's probably because that there's a better way for him to be used, and you just wish that he would play that way. Because I don't think like you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean, and
it's
I don't
two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of making it personal in terms
of
Fred.
Personal,
it would probably be better if I just said I don't like the way number 23 is playing.
Well, that makes it an algorithm, yeah.
Yeah, it's just all it is the way he's playing. And I don't really want to get down on him and stuff like that, but it's just not working.
I mean, there's a comment. Okay, thanks a lot, MSJ. I really appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, no worries.
There's a comment here. I'm gonna try to respond to a couple of these. Yes, there are a couple of people, waiting in the chat. There's Dude and Egos of Para, who hopefully has fixed their audio. I will just say that to this, is he really worth $25 million? I mean, I guess it depends on context. It's like what do you value him for? Are you paying him $25 million to be your superstar and your starting point guard? Maybe not. But do you see a transition to him maybe becoming a backup? And you talk it out with him and say, hey, listen, we see you as a starter next year, maybe more off the ball. And if you continue to slow down, we just see you as a veteran leader. And, we're gonna give you this second, we're gonna give you like a 3-year plus, like make the compromise on years, maybe pay him a lot of money for like 2-3 years. I just feel like allowing him and Gary and Pascal to all come in with a big contract on the line into the same season, that is how you tank. Like that's how you have a season that just falls apart, because guys have too much on their minds at the end of the day, right? Because if at the end of the day, none of these guys are Kevin Durant, right? Kevin Durant tore his Achilles, still got a Supermax contract. None of these guys are on that level. And I want you to be very clear about that. They're not, you know, not even close. So Pascal Siakam right now, like God forbid, has a season-ending injury. I guarantee you no one is giving him Supermax. No, maybe he's not even a max player. Like there's a level to this, guys. Like he's not on that level. None of these guys are. So they're all trying to get to a point where they can command the max dollar, because this, like the next collective bargaining agreement is huge. There's like a huge carrot being dangled in front of a lot of players right now who are eligible for contract extensions. And you have no idea how much money is coming in, but let me tell you, it's a lot, right? So to the specific context of his $25 million, a lot? Yeah, given the current cap. But 2 years from now, we might be talking like a 30 million inflation in the cap. And I mean, like, we'll talk about it in some other show, especially if the Raptors continue to lose. We'll obviously have to do cap breakdowns and draft prospects and stuff like that. But I just want to say, like, that's a really big part of it, is understanding, like, how much is 25 million and when are you paying it? Anyways, let's see if Egos Apara is back on. Hello, Egos Apara, are you there?
Could you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you move a little bit closer to the mic?
Sure. Huge fan of the podcast.
Thank you.
The platform.
Really appreciate it.
And I guess, what I want to discuss is the direction of the Raptors at this point. I know it's kind of early, right? However, realistically, I don't see the Raptors making the second round right now, right? And as I heard before, I think from Masai, second round or bust, right? And with that being said, I do have a trade package that I'll make very quick of one of two, actually, just to kind of hear your expertise on this, right? Because I think I pushed it before on a few of your videos, right? Okay. The first is with Indiana, right? And it's Andrew Nembhard,
okay,
Miles Turner, Buddy Hield, and TJ McConnell, right?
Okay. Didn't we just talk about that trade on the trade show?
No, I didn't join. I don't. Okay. I wasn't.
We had
I think I sent it as a comment, and you responded.
Okay, go ahead. And
I recall sending it.
And who are we giving up in that trade?
And we would be giving up Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent, Champagne, Bo Cruz, with 2 or 3 future second-round picks.
Yeah, they say no to that easily. You are so? way under on that. I guarantee it. Yes, Fred VanVleet does not hold that kind of value, especially on a team that already has Tyrese. Like, why would you? Tyrese Halliburton is one of the best point guards in the NBA. They see him as like the future, and he's very young. He's 23, 24 years old. You have an emerging guy like that. You bring in a guy chasing a contract on a rental. If they really want him, they'll have him in the offseason. I guarantee it. Indiana is very easily a team that can get under the cap to sign him. They're not giving up assets for Fred VanVleet. And nothing else that you actually added to that package is worth. It's not worth anything. Gary Trent Jr., again, on an expiring, it's not worth a lot. I got to tell you. Maybe there's a contender out there who's super desperate to shore up, their scoring off the bench. The problem is you start to lose, right? The value of your players starts to go down, right? It really does. I promise you, it does, right? Because the rest of the league knows you're sellers. Now they know you're trying to initiate. That's why I say the Raptors need to be proactive with trades. They don't need to be reactive. Because don't wait till you're 12 games under 500 at the trade deadline, and now everyone knows that you're trying to offload these guys, and now everybody is basically lowballing you, because that's what's going to happen, right? Now I know Masai and Bobby are like incredible. Oh man, if I'm not mistaken, MSJ, this is our first ever super sticker That's so cool. Thank you so much, man. I see these things all the time. I don't know how they work, but I believe that is that's like a tip. Thank you so much, MSG. I really appreciate it. Sorry, what was I saying? Jeez.
I see where you're coming.
Yeah. So basically the asset thing. So basically smart asset management is to always sell from a position of strength. I think I used to work for a hedge fund. So like honestly, like trading is like something that's very much in my wheelhouse. And I understand, that when you're in a desperate position, nobody wants your scraps, because again, it comes with the taint of losing, right? If these guys are losing together, how good are they really? You know what I mean? Like that's why you build narratives. You say like, oh well, Pascal Siakam was out, and that's why we're losing. Okay. Scottie Barnes is struggling. That's why we're losing. We're playing a rookie starting center. That's why we're losing. Okay, but don't worry, Gary Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam, the guys that we may offload, are still like those guys are carrying us. Maybe that's the reason for all the narrative slant. Maybe that's the reason for all the bias. I don't know. But let me tell you, I don't think that these pieces that you're sending off like are worth much of a damn, because honestly, Buddy Hield is one of the best offensive players in the NBA. You may not believe that on first sight, but I promise you, analytically, he is. Miles Turner is one of the best defensive players in the NBA. I have been very critical of his defense in the past, but he has taken a major step up, and he has been a really big part. Andrew Nembhard, the ringer. By the way, I will get into a little bit of rant about the Ringer pod, because I've been a big fan of the Ringer for a while, and I listened to their trade value list yesterday, and I nearly puked. They had Andrew Nembhard as an honorable mention, top 70 trade value guy. So Andrew Nembhard at this point, 1-for-1 for Gary Trent, they would say no. So basically, like you're saying, like Fred VanVleet gets you Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. I think not. So yeah. Anyways, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for calling in. Do you have any thoughts about the game, or just trade?
I guess my thoughts on the game is, it seems like it seemed pretty dysfunctional. Like I don't know what's going on with the team, right? The trade deadline is still a ways, right? And I think, to my knowledge, the Raps are at 8 or 8.5 games from first, right? So a lot could still change, right? Gary can come back, eventually can come back. Otto, maybe, and Precious, right? So
right,
things could change. I think it's probably better, to wait it out and see what happens, right? Players could play better and improve their value.
Yeah, I completely get you. I understand. Thank you so much, Ego Sapara. Thanks a lot. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
I just saw a comment that I gotta bring up. Don't be that guy. I used to be that guy all the time, and I promise you that when you get a little bit more secure with yourself, you won't feel the need to correct people's grammar in a chat. I don't mean to call you out or shout you out on this. It's just like, why? I just want to say that the Ringer, right? So here's a interesting observation just in between, and we will get to Samuel, who's waiting in line right now, and to anyone else who wants to call in, please call in. Like I'm here for you guys for the next 40 minutes or so. We can talk it out. I realize tomorrow is it's a work day, and so we have to get going. But let's have a lively discussion. Let's talk about some other stuff. But one thing I want to talk about is, like, I've been digging very deep into basketball for quite some time now, right? For the last year, I've ramped it up aggressively. I research all these other teams. I don't want to talk on my ass. I don't want to not know things. I don't want to call a guy a great defender when he's not really a great defender. So if I have an inkling that what I'm watching is good, I'll dig into all his numbers. I just want to be really well researched. And sometimes I'll listen to Thinking Basketball or a podcast that I really respect, and I'll realize, oh my God, I have so far to go. These guys know everything, and they'll reference, a particular stat that I really like, and they'll be like, here's what's wrong with it. And then I'll go and dig my own research and I'll figure that out. Yesterday I was listening to The Ringer, and shout out to Bill Simmons and all the cool guys over at The Ringer. This is not shade or, any offense to you. I've been a long time lover of The Ringer pod, and they have some really good guys. Jake Howell, man, awesome. A lot of the guys over there are just ace, right? Ryan Russillo. There's some good guys over there at The Ringer. But man, when I listened to that trade value list and they started like giving commentary on who these players were, like CJ McCollum, and like talking about him, and just I just remember thinking to myself, I can't listen to this. I can't listen to this because I've already come up with like 3 things in the first 8 minutes that are factually absolute bullshit. Like they're not true at all. Like they'll call a guy a great defender, and he's like one of the worst defenders in the NBA, but he has this amazing reputation. And I'll be like, oh shit, like this is what happens when you start listening to elevated content. Is the I want to call it like less elevated content becomes impossible to listen to. So it's just an interesting observation. Anyways, Samuel, next up. Samuel, can you connect your mic or camera? Just if you're listening, just connect. Okay, here we go. Samuel, what's up,
Can you
man?
hear
How
me?
are you? Yeah, I can hear you.
You
How
can
you
hear
doing?
me, right? Hey,
Yeah, I
how are
can.
you, Robert? Nice to finally
I'm
see you
good.
on this platform. I didn't want to type long message on Facebook. Um, no, I think listen to a couple of your shows, and I think there's bits and pieces. I think it adds up to see, to what's happening right now. Because you mentioned if their philosophy is to build up assets for players, then the one-on-one uh, features would make sense. But then you also, I think the contradicting, not you, but in terms of what the contradictory thing is, if you put them in this situation, you have some injuries, then you're selling low because you're not featuring them well. I don't
Right.
think they are valuing their guys as high as they put out to be. I think that you're right. You just hit it on the nail on earlier comment. I think this is a narrative.
Right.
I think they known this for a long time, and
Mhm.
they're looking. You mentioned a couple of times it's placeholders for a better player, but why not? And I think these losses are a blessing, because what you don't want, and I think you and a couple people mentioned it, you don't want to get to the second round, keep losing, and you're not gaining any grounds, right? You're in the middle of the pack again. So why not
Right.
obtain more assets? But then if that's done deliberately, then you can't put Nurse, this, he's doing what management wants him to do, right? He just can't say it. Or
Mhm.
maybe there's certain things you see that there's not much he can work with, or is a combination. I don't know. I mean, I think this is probably he can't say it out loud, and he's just like, let's see what we got. These are
Mhm.
the players we got. But then also it doesn't help. He's working his guys to a certain level, and then they're all breaking down. I don't know if that's, I'm not sure if I'm making any sense here. I think that's the long term approach to this whole thing.
Look, I mean, look, objectively, if you look at Pascal Siakam as an asset right now and not as a franchise player or not as some guy you're trying to build around for the next 15 years or whatever, or 10 years or whatever, or a culture setter, if you have intel to believe that, I mean, if I know it, they know it, right? That this guy is probably not going to be great on the latter end of that deal, even though you can probably twist the narrative and say because he picked up basketball late, he's going to be brilliant in the second,
Sure.
in this I guess that would be his third contract, right? Because he has rookie contract and he has max contract, and now he'll get a super max contract and makes all NBA. His numbers are all NBA, right? And from a position of, look, at the end of the day, everything's about selling in basketball. You got to sell it to your fan base. You got to be able to sell them on why you traded Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. You got to be able to sell your fan base on why you traded away Vince Carter for Aaron Williams, Eric Williams, an Alonzo Mourning that never showed up, and draft pick or whatever. You got to be able to sell it. The fan base has to understand it. The fan base doesn't understand it. They revolt. They question. You don't want sports fans questioning everything, because then if it doesn't work out, you need people to buy in. You need people to buy in so that they think that they were stupid. They'd be like, "Oh, I can't believe I thought DeMar DeRozan was the next Vince Carter. I can't believe, I bought, Vince's jersey. He's such a crook." You gotta let the fan base experience the loss. You can't let them become critical, because when they become critical, then you have to up your game up big time. At the end of the day, right now, they did two things at once. Number one, they sold you the Siakam, VanVleet, Barnes, like these guys are all elite players. OG, right? OG for All-Star. That was a real thing 3 weeks ago. OG for All-Star and DPOY. This is not shade on OG. I love OG a lot. I love OG more than certain dead relatives. But, like, chill on the defensive player of the year and, All-Star stuff. I get it. Like, he's in the conversation. Do you know how many players in the conversation for All-Star every year? About 40. You know how many make it? 28. 24,
right.
Sorry. Right? 24 or 26. Is it 13-man rosters? At least 13-man rosters. Anyways, my larger point is you've sold the fan base that you have a really good team, and you've also happened to lose a lot of games. So you've featured most of your guys. If you look at their raw numbers, it's actually pretty impressive. Most
So
of
I
the guys
wonder if. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
that you actually want to that you may actually want to get rid of if you were to initiate a rebuild, all of them have pretty much outperformed. If I told you at the start of the season that Pascal Siakam will be averaging what he's averaging right now, which is whatever he's averaging right now, I think it's an absurd number.
Yeah.
Would you have believed me? Like if I had told you
No.
that OG Anunoby would become a 20-point per game scorer with like top level defense, would you believe me? It's like these guys have all been shopped, guys. Siakam was shopped 2 years ago. OG was shopped this
Sure.
summer. Like, there's no buy-in to this core. If you actually give a shit about this core, you would actually support this core by trading away some future assets, probably to get help at the center. You wouldn't be starting a rookie center if
No,
you're trying to win
exactly.
basketball games at any level, like beyond, right? So
And
you can say
I wonder if the guys know about it themselves, right? They must have known, right? Like, so this is like you said, this is my year as a player. You just said it, right? To feature myself, right?
Mhm.
And Nick, I guess he has some loyalty with these guys, and I'm trying to piece
Right.
it together as we speak. It's like,
Right.
look, do your thing, do whatever you can. I'm helping you get to the next place. I know
Right.
this is not going to happen. You've done something for us in an organization. Maybe hopefully you can get a next contract. And I wonder if that's the case. But then here's the problem. If you do that, you could alienate the younger player who's coming in, and you're not doing them a favor. You see what I'm like? I think
mean,
that
does
when
anyone
you
realize
try to shuffle
that?
too many things one time, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Like,
I
does
think
anyone think that?
you get into into a big conflict, which they are in. But then again, are they sneak tanking? That's the other thing.
I mean, would this fan base have accepted them blowing it up this offseason?
No.
Given the season that they had, how much would this fan base have revolted if they had just dipped out on? You got to realize sometimes teams see things, right? Like last year, I don't think the organizational goal was to win, to get into the playoffs, or necessarily to even be in the first round. I think last year it was compete maybe for a play-in spot. Like you start Scottie Barnes, you aggressively don't play. You basically like let go of an asset like Goran Dragic. Don't play him, even though he is definitely better than Malachi Flynn and Delano Banton for sure. Don't bring that. Goran Dragic is a scrub. He hates us. He's a better player, right? At the end of the day, they shift gears to give that team a chance because they overperformed last year, right? At the end of the day, they overperformed. They gave him Thaddeus Young. They parted on the draft pick, right? They swapped the first for a second, and they gave him Thaddeus Young last year. But at the end of the day, you still have this core that ultimately you didn't necessarily know what you had with these guys. And then Scottie Barnes is way further ahead. So you're like, oh my God, maybe we could. Maybe we could. This guy's like way more NBA ready than we thought. We thought he wouldn't be able to shoot. Now he's shooting 30%. Now he's shooting 32%. And I think it like maybe made them, and I believe the Raptors are excellent at hedging. I think they hedge their bets really well. They really do. You'll notice the Raptors, there's like a lot of times where they could do what other front offices do, which is go all in one direction. And as a former hedge fund guy, I really appreciate the Raptors for this because trust me when I tell you there are no certainties in the NBA. You think that Luka Doncic is a guy that's worth parting out like 7 first round picks or shit like that. You think Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, look what happened to the Clippers. They went all in, right? Because Ballmer is the gambler, right? They go all in on this Kawhi and PG thing. They haven't been to the finals once, guys. They parted away with every single asset they had, including a top 5 player who's, by the way, better than Kawhi and better than PG today. Don't be the Clippers. It's so funny that the Clippers could change ownership, change everything, and still remain that's the most Clipper move ever. And it's like, yeah, in hindsight, you can say the idea was right. But that's the point. You mortgage too much.
Yep.
It's unsustainable. You're making a huge bet. It's like literally saying, I have a good feeling about the Dolphins. I'm going to bet my house. Don't do that. It's stupid, right? I like the fact that the Raptors hedge. I like the fact that they have assets. And somebody, commented on one of the videos and they said like, oh my God, it's been so great to hear Raptor fans shut up for like the last month because, y'all were talking so much shit in the summer. And it's like, bro, I'm still going to talk shit because this is still one of the top 5 organizations in terms of where we are and what we have. Like, how bad is it? Yeah, we're losing a lot of games. You think I would trade places with the Knicks? Like, I wouldn't. Like, just because they're ahead of you in the standings doesn't mean you would trade places with them. There are like very few teams in this league that have a better outlook going forward than the Raptors, better asset, management. Like the Raptors are losing almost by design. There's a system in place that is absolutely functionally proven to cost you basketball games. It's
That-
just not sustainable.
That's exactly. I think you established the point. I think a
Yeah.
lot of the guys who are calling in or follow your channel and or talking to you, I think you guys are smart enough to notice this is by design. If that's the case, we're looking at what we have. Let's
Mhm.
try these out. Then we shouldn't ask the questions like, well, what's Nick doing? Well, he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do then, right? Or if he's not, then
Mhm.
he's not doing himself favor. He'd be on the firing line soon. Like, maybe not, but I think he's doing what exactly he's been told to do. So I think
I
that's
think
where we're
Nick
going.
has much more leash than most of us think he does. Anyway, Samuel,
Of
do you have any
course.
final thoughts?
No. I think. What do you think about? I think we should start planning the long term and start, playing the young guys. I think that seems like what's going on. Like, I don't want us to win
We
2
kind
games
of
and then.
are. Like, apart from the
Well,
guard
I mean,
position,
yeah,
like
yeah,
basically, yes, you're basically showcasing Siakam and Van Vliet. You're trying to get their numbers up, right?
yeah.
And if the plan would, like, look, guys, we don't know what guys say behind closed doors. Okay, I trust me. Every coach has a conversation with a player at the beginning of the year, and they lay out the goals for the season. And one of those goals might be, we're going to get you DPOY. We're going to make you a scoring leader. We're going to make you
Sure.
an all-star. This is what you're going to chase this year. So look, like, at the end of the day, if the writing was on the wall at the end of last year, right? If okay, so the person who just wrote yo, don't spam the chat. I realize it might be a slip, but don't do it. Don't do it too often. I think maybe they realized something about themselves in the summer. So, like, during the playoffs, maybe what they saw was, oh shit, like, we're not good enough. Like, we're not good enough. You never realize when a team figures themselves out. But if the front office was like, oh my God, we're not good enough, but we have kind of sold the fan base on this epic. I'm not getting conspiratorial here. I feel like I'm almost evoking like
No, but
conspiracy theory of,
I
like,
want to ask you something because since you know a lot of basketball and this is
sure,
I've heard you talked about it, right? Like, I think
sure,
if Scottie is more in the mold of kind of more LeBron James ish, that I initiate and create and dish out to the right person, or you talked about also like the Michael Jordan mold, but even the Michael Jordan mold, which is more Kawhi. If you look at Pascal Siakam, he's stuck in the middle of both because he needs like 10 or more seconds to get a shot, and then everybody's out of place, or he drives into the lane off balance. That's what I
right,
notice, and if you're gonna be like that, then you got to know where to dish to make
right,
your teammates successful and to make yourself successful. But I always notice he dribbles low, and the pickup is slower, and then he flips it up. Either he gets blocked or people can know exactly where he's going, and I think that's why he needed a couple more seconds to get to that finishing move. And I don't think the in between move, maybe the floater is as good as I think we think it is. So I don't think you can see that Kawhi 2 dribbles and a pull up where it's effective. So
not even
I
close.
want to see Scotty maybe develop those down the road, and you don't want to see
Scotty's
like a
got his own
Siakam.
issues. I mean, in all honesty, like, Scotty's
Yeah,
got his own issues with touch around the basket right now,
yeah,
shooting form, consistency, etc., etc., etc. However, if I am giving runs to somebody to be, to be something that they're not, I would rather give runs to somebody who's under team control for the next 6 years on a rookie contract and
correct.
actually has the potential to grow into that. I always see, like, top end potential. What's the best that could happen here? And how likely is it to happen?
Yeah.
It's kind of like just how my brain works. When I was
Sure.
21, somebody actually accused me. They're like, "I don't think you see people, you see numbers." And from that day to this day, I have forced myself to look inward and try to see people as opposed to numbers. But sometimes I do see numbers again. It's just the way my brain works. And one of the things I look at when I see Siakam, and maybe one of the reasons I've been so critical of him in the last 2-3 months, is, like, what's the best case outcome of this? Like, running him out as a first option, like, de facto helio ball type of, player. What what is it supposed to be? What is it supposed to turn into? I mean, if he develops, right, you pay the supermax, and then you get stuck, like, in my opinion, with a
Yeah,
really bad contract in the latter half of it. And if he completely tanks, I mean, you lose, and you tank his value at the same time. It's like you're putting him in a position almost like to grow or die, right? And he's not built for it. I mean, if you look at the numbers, it looks like he's really built for it. It looks like he's a really good player. 20. Everyone cites it. 25, 8, 9. Like all this stuff. Like Even tonight, it was like 27 points. It's like, yes, these are numbers. Look at how they're being generated. Look how hard it is. Everything's so hard. You can't, like, I think previous caller brought it up. It's like everything is so hard. Everything's at the rim. Everything's contested. The clips we showed of Kawhi, look how easy it is. There's so much separation. Look at how Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving got shots off yesterday. Those are primary guys. Like, there's a reason why guys, like, look, at the end of the day, when you look at youth basketball, you look at AAU, some guys get ranked like top 5, become McDonald's All-Americans. Some of them pan out, some of them don't. There's always a guy who's like, 40th, 80th, 90th ranked in the US, and then they rise up slowly, and they get themselves into a Division I offer, and they're like a 4-star recruit, and then they work really, really hard. I gotta tell you, man, like, honestly, the best case version of that guy is usually not as good as the best case version of the other guy. If you had to hedge your bets, I would say, like, the talent gap is huge. The creativity that those young players show, there's a reason why Scottie Barnes was a top 5 recruit. There is a reason. I promise you, there is a reason. Because he was flashing.
I'm buying
go
into
ahead.
it. What I can't, and I don't. Again, this is coaching now. I think, or maybe they know this and kind of let it go because you gotta appease, all the other existing guys. Like, you can't have Scottie pound the ball and then he stands out near the logo. There's no cutting, or people are not cutting, like you said, because they're not getting the pass, and that's. Eventually, I'm concerned, like yourself, and I think I've heard you say a number of times. I'm concerned about the mental the mental, I guess, I don't know, lack of word, mental fatigue of the young player. That's what I'm concerned if we keep keeping these guys moving forward. They want to do their thing, and you have this young guy sulking because he's not getting the play style he wants, and he's probably, like you said, he's hurt. Then you're not doing him a favor by continuing this experiment. So I think they're at this crossroad and they got to make some sort of decision. I know they're trying to hedge, but I think it's not healthy for themselves or the players at this point. I don't know if you see it that way. So
yeah, absolutely.
Anyways,
Samuel, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay. Honestly, the next person to to spam the chat is not actually getting a timeout. You're getting blocked. Okay, I'm getting really sick of this. It was like, first was that free Malachi person, and then last chat, which I wasn't watching too much when I was in my impassioned rant about that YouTuber, and it's kind of weird because I wish I had been paying attention to that chat, because the guy who was in the chat brought up a lot of really familiar talking points, and I had to delete that whole chat. But I will tell you that, to you out there who, made a little account and came and chatted and, wrote all sorts of bullshit in the chat, bro, like, that's, like, you're 50. You're 50 years old. Stop acting like a fucking child. My God. And honestly, like, don't spam the chat. It's not cool. You're getting banned next time. Okay, next up, we're going to have Alex, and then we're going to have Gil, and then I think we're going to call it a night. That's going to be our last 2 callers. Alex, what's up?
Hey Robert, how are you doing?
You sound exhausted. Did you just watch a team lose?
Yeah.
They got you bummed out?
Yeah, I'm pretty bummed out, but I just wanted to, like, chime in here and
sure.
So yeah, I also work in hedge fund industry. I rate algos to, like, trade stocks and stuff like that. So I really appreciate you saying that, this management team, they're really good at hedging their bets. And I think it also ties into the talking point of, why did they have all these contracts? Like, why didn't they extend all these contracts that they have up right now? And I think it goes back to them, trying to be flexible and having the option to reset, right? I think that last season, right? Like, I also get accused of this. So, like, not being sentimental and looking, like, placing way too much emphasis on numbers. I also get that critique a lot too. But I think last season I wasn't sold on them. And I think the front office knows that they overachieved last season, right? I think that they were expecting some type of regression to the mean. And I think that is why they didn't, double down on this core, because they clearly have the pieces to do so, right? Like we have a lot of assets that could really, that could be used to upgrade this team.
I agree. Look, at the end of the day, you never heard of, a team with a real superstar other than maybe the Miami Heat with Dwayne Wade or whatever, looking for a real superstar. That usually isn't the way it goes, right? The Raptors have been on the market for Kevin Durant this summer. Previous summer, they were on the market for Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? He didn't sign. So you should probably look at the writing on the wall. I know that this group here, 220 of you that are in the chat, you guys are smarter than the average bear, right? In terms of sports fans and just in terms of regular fans, I think that you guys can pretty much feel it out. How a team talks and how a team feels is not the same. There are a lot of guys that maybe you don't necessarily believe in. I'll give you one very good example. DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, that core, that specific duo, Jonas Valanciunas, all the guys. What investment did management really show in that core to support them, other than maybe parting out with Terrence Ross for Serge Ibaka? Right? Like, what did they really show? Like, did they ever do, like, do you know what I mean? Like, but once you had Kawhi, you parted with two very good young players for an aging vet on a very big contract in Marc Gasol, plus you gave him a draft pick. I mean,
I would say 3 actually, because you had JV, Pirtle, DeMar.
Jakob Pirtle was not traded for thing. Jakob Pirtle was traded for Kawhi.
Yeah, so I'm saying like for the core, they
right.
traded JV.
No,
for
absolutely.
Marc Gasol.
And I mean, like consider that. Like, would the Raptors have traded Jakob Pirtle, DeLon Wright, and Jonas Valanciunas, 3 very young, very serviceable players who are all playing right now? Jakob Pirtle is a starting center. He would be the best center on your team. Jonas Valanciunas is a starting center. He would be the best. He would be the best center on your team. Yep. DeLon Wright is a backup point guard. He would be your de facto backup point guard right now, by far. By far, he was already pushing Fred back then. Health was the only issue. You gave up 3 pieces, and DeMar DeRozan. You also gave up DeMar DeRozan for a Kawhi rental, right? Like, that's the type of crazy win now thing you do when you actually believe in your core. I don't think the Raptors believe in this core, to be honest. I think they need you to believe that they believe in this core, because why else would you tune in? Why would you watch? Like,
yep,
you know what I mean? You need storylines to follow. OG Anunoby winning Defensive Player of the Year, storyline. Pascal Siakam chasing top 5, storyline. Fred VanVleet betting on himself, storyline. These are all storylines. At the end of the day, that's what it is. These are all storylines. This is fact fiction. The fact is the Raptors have a stable asset base of very tradable pieces that would be of some value to some teams that are less intelligent than the Raptors right now. And there are a lot of teams that are underperforming right now, underperforming expectations at least, right? Because you've seen teams like Utah jump up, but then you've also seen teams like the Clippers underperform. Is Paul George available? Is that even the type of player you want to bring onto this team, given his age, contract, etc.? Sorry, my audio just fell. Just get myself back up there. So that's what I would say about that. Is I think that there's a lot of flexibility going forward. I don't think there's any need to panic. And you know what? If the Raptors were a panicky franchise, there's a very good chance that you wouldn't even have your draft pick this year. And now you'd be really panicking, right? So it's interesting how like they conveniently timed it though, right? Like everyone's talking about this great draft, and you're like, oh man, the Raptors are gonna be really good this year. And it's like, oh, creative, right? Because 2021 and 2023, in my opinion, and I'm a big draft guy. Like my first website that I ever built was a 2002 draft website. First website I ever built. Obsessed with the draft. I scout every single. Oh my gosh, guys, these super thanks, super chat things are like crazy humbling. We've never received them before, and I don't know why we're receiving a flood of them right now. But thank you so much. I have no idea how to express how much it means to me, but thank you so much. Thank you so much, Larry. Yeah. So, sorry, what was I saying? I just completely lost my train of thought there.
2002 draft.
Right. So I've been obsessed with the draft, and I got to tell you, the 2021 draft is at least going into it, and the 2023 draft. Now, I could argue the 2022 draft has been criminally underrated so far. Paolo is balling out of his mind, but these two drafts specifically, at least going into it, projecting forward, have been considered like the best in years type of drafts, right? With Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, there's a lot of guys at the top of this draft, and it's like with the cap going up, having two guys like that, like Scottie plus one of those guys, whew, plus like as a trade asset, like you could potentially like parlay that into an actual star. Because as I mentioned in the previous video, like once you actually put a number to that draft pick, like this is the 4th overall pick. Oh man, the Raptors got a taste of it after the Tampa season when they saw all the trade offers that came in for that number 4 pick. When all those teams wanted to trade up for Jalen Suggs as their point guard of the future or whatever they were trying to do with it. And I think that they are very keenly aware that if there was ever a year to kind of maybe, fall off the rails, this might be it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the players kind of know this too, because I was listening to Fred talk after the game.
Yeah.
And he was saying how this team is not built for injuries.
That's interesting.
So I think like he kind of like, I mean, that might just be Fred being political, but like I think he knows that, the total is greater than the sum of its parts. So yeah, I think he knows that the core isn't good enough going forward, and honestly, like I don't know why everyone expects Fred to come back. I think he's ready for the next chapter of his career, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And, to whoever signs him, like great, like good for you. I would like the Raptors to get some assets back for him, to be honest. And I kind of wish that we'd made this decision sooner. It's just, again, when you win, I feel like everything that's happening this year was supposed to happen last year. But then Scottie Barnes just got off to too hot of a start, screwed over the whole thing. So
yeah,
if you're asking me, blame Scottie, because this should have happened last year,
yeah,
right? When all of these
true.
assets were just a little bit more valuable. Now, of course, I say all of this to say that, there's a very good chance that the Raptors absolutely snap into place, win tomorrow, and then all of this is a complete lost cause, But again, I read the analytics the same way the Raptors read the analytics. Like I know exactly the numbers they're looking at. And based on the numbers I'm looking at, there isn't a very strong reason that Christian Coloco should be playing right now. That's not shade on Christian Coloco. He's one of my favorite players.
Right.
And there's absolutely a very strong reason to be playing Ken Birch over him right now. However, your insistence to not do that shows me, and the fact that you're already losing so much, and the fact that you have said like, hey, like so I feel like this was a hedge. It's a bit of a hedge bet, right? You put these guys out, you let them put up their fantastic numbers, you get the fans excited, and then it all falls off a cliff the minute one of these guys goes down. Like, I don't know. Or maybe there's another variable in place. Like maybe no one was just quite sure how good Boston was going to be.
Yeah.
And Milwaukee, and just like looking at like what the Cavs did. We don't know if the Cavs swinging for Donovan Mitchell completely closed the window for us that we may have thought was open. But I will tell you, as Raptor fans, I know this all sounds very doom and gloom, and I don't want to be a doom and gloom channel. I will tell you that you're in very good hands. Very good hands, very capable hands. And that whatever the season brings, whether it be a string of losses, that lead to a huge panic sell-off, I promise you it won't be outside the design. Like there will have been a great deal of planning and thinking that goes into it. This is not like, of all the organizations that I trust to not screw themselves over, this is the top organization. So I have full faith.
Yeah, for sure.
Any final thoughts, Alex?
No, that's it. But yeah, I mean, this might sound bad as a fan, but like I really hope they don't turn it around like they did last season.
Oh my God, that's funny. You know what? Look, as a Scottie fan, like as a really big Scottie fan, I know how much he hates losing, and for him and for all those guys in the locker room right now, OG and Otto, who came here and in his introductory press conference was talking about maybe going back to the finals. Like I know that this season has not been right, and look, like it's not unheard of for a team to just kick it around and completely kick into a new gear. I just worry about like who do you have that makes that kick around worth it, right? Like because there are a lot of teams that catch fire in the second half of the season. Boston Celtics are a really good example of a team that just found a new rhythm. At this point last year, the Boston Celtics were very much in danger of like having to trade like one of their core pieces, like Marcus Smart or Jalen. Wow, I'm drawing a blank. I'm saying Jalen Williams. And what am I missing here?
Do you need help?
Jalen Brown. My God. Wow. Jalen Brown. They almost, you know, the fan base was calling for it. They were like, oh my God, you got to trade one of these guys. It's not working. You know, Ime Udoka sucks. Needs to be fired. Well, that was a little premature. He got fired later. But at the end of the day, like, that team turned it around and went all the way to the finals. But difference here is Jason Tatum is not Pascal Siakam. That's the difference. Is the top end potential there is enormous, right? You have a championship core that's underperforming. I don't think you have a championship core here. That's just my opinion. However, the Raptors may preach patience. They often have. Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster obviously put this team together with some, you know, some thought. And if in fact what Fred VanVleet is saying is true, is that in fact it is the injuries that are hurting them, well, Precious Achiuwa and Otto Porter can't get back any sooner, but they are expected to be back January, I believe, and OG Anunoby is supposed to be back this week, so we'll see. But I'm just saying the math on it says you lose 3 more games, the odds of finishing any higher than 6th are virtually going to be less than 1%. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Alex, I appreciate you calling in.
Yep. Have a good day.
Thanks a lot. Gil, how are you doing? Thanks for waiting.
What's up, Rob, my man? 1 game down, 2 more to go.
Sorry, I have to actually blow my nose because I have a sinus infection. So please let me know your thoughts. And
Yeah.
Like I'm hearing you. I'm just removing myself so that you guys don't need to hear it. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. So basically, I heard you say with the previous caller that, you know, you don't want to sound doom and gloom, but I got to tell you guys, like, Raptors fans, let's not be short-sighted. The way the team is playing, the way the offense is constructed, the way the guys are going out there performing every night, it's clear that this is a dignified tank. Okay, so for me, it's not about winning the battle, it's about winning the war, right? You can lose the battle, but at the end of the day, if we end up with a great draft pick, if we move some guys, get some really good assets back, I think we can make a resurgence. So coming into the season, I said, you know what? I see some top 5 potential, like in the East. I could see it if all things go, according to plan. But I have no problem with pivoting this season. I mean, it's already happening naturally. Like, I had my cousin was at the game, and he texted me. He's like, "Yo, Golden State, their movement is so ridiculous. Like the way they play on offense and on defense. Like they're just so." It's like the complete opposite of what the Raptors do. And I said, you know what? That's Golden State basketball. That's why they're, a perennial championship contender. So, and I mean, look at them. The 2 seasons before they just won their championship, they were terrible. They were horrible, right? And they, like you said earlier in the call,
you could also argue that their draft picks did not help much
exactly.
at all.
I was just going to say that.
That was just them getting Steph Curry back, and we don't have a Steph Curry. That's the difference. I feel like you're still kind of looking for your Steph Curry. Will Scottie Barnes turn into your, cornerstone? If you've already decided on that, you've known him now, he's been in your system, and if that's the guy you're building around, then, if you're not sold on him, maybe because he struggled a little bit this year and you want to, give it a chance with Scoot Henderson or Victor Wembanyama or someone like that in this draft.
Yeah.
Look, I believe these are calculated bets. Like, I just think that, at some point you have to look at it and say, what do I have to gain? What do I have to lose? It just comes down to that. And it's just like, at this point, like, what you have to gain is so minimal compared to what you have to lose by finishing high this year. Because it's like, Masai Ujiri, famous, for that meme, play in for what? Play in for what? Because he was, and he's so openly called it the Tampa tank too. I was just so surprised that he was just like so blatantly obvious about it. It was a soft tank, but ultimately, yeah, Kyle Lowry shut down for the season. He would have definitely helped you win 2-3 more games. You don't have Scottie Barnes then. You end up with, Jonathan Kuminga, or, some people might say a better player in Franz Wagner. I just think that at the end of the day, there's so much at stake, and there's so little to lose. by finishing bottom. You know, if you could find a way to bottom 5, bottom 6 this season, sell off assets, get more draft picks, maybe even get another draft pick for the 2023. Oh my gosh, like you could really replenish the asset base big time. I don't believe the Raptors should ever operate under the cap because they're not necessarily a free agent destination, but you know, with the cap going up, like everyone's going to have like that one summer of a lot of cap, or unless they parse it out over a little bit, which, you know, they didn't do last time. And then you had Alan Crabb and, you know, all those guys getting like crazy amounts of money. I think there were some crazy contracts handed out. That was the summer that Kevin Durant ended up in Golden State. So, yeah, I mean, look, I just think that it's hard to tell what could have been, because I look at the issues on the court, right? And I'm like, man, cutting bigs help. A guy who can really rebound would help. A guy who can hit a 3 would help. So basically it's Otto and Precious, right? Yeah. I'm not buying into the narrative that the Raptors, you know, are spilling out right now of like, oh, it's all because we're missing these guys. But man, when have we seen this team completely healthy? And it's like, okay, well, if you can't sustain it with, you know, a bench guy being out, like if your whole thing is a house of cards and it's based on one guy, and if he goes out, you can't win. Okay, well, you know, maybe that's not sustainable, much of a team anyways, right? But yeah, I mean, look, I could be wrong. I'm not in the Raptors front office. Maybe what they saw from Siakam thus far this season is like, oh, this is our guy. Like we're gonna go forward with this guy. Maybe all this top 5 stuff is not a deep fake. Maybe it's not just to sell the narrative. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is actually how they think about him. I doubt it. I
disagree. I don't think they.
Yeah, do. I don't think so either. But you know, why put it out there?
No, there's no reason. I understand it's a business too, right? You have to sell tickets. You have to keep the morale up in the fan base. But yeah, come on, like real fan, like not real fans. Sorry, people that know basketball understand that he is nowhere near a top 5 player. No disrespect, you know, he's a good player. He's a very good player. And if it takes, you know, Fred VanVleet until the trade deadline, dribbling with his head down, forcing up shots, getting, you know, 28 to 30 points per game, heightening his trade value. Siakam as well, getting that close to triple-double numbers with, you know, mid-20s, and then moving them off for some really good assets. And us, you know, giving the ball to OG to have him lose his balance 5 to 10 times in a game. I'm fine with that, man, because if that's going to guarantee me a high draft pick, then guess what? I'm taking it, because the top 5 this year is truly special. So, yeah.
There's a question here, Nick Ham. Please tell me if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, but Nikamya. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Earlier, I didn't get to give you a shout out for that. Siakam more polished than Brown, shooting, defense, basketball IQ. Honestly, like, yeah, I prefer Jaylen Brown. I know that's gonna really piss off a lot of Raptor fans.
Wait. People are actually still having this debate about who's better. For me, it's Jaylen Brown, 100%.
I mean, wow. Like, I mean, if okay.
Hold on. No, Rob, look at it. Like the guy. Yeah, he does. When he dribbles into traffic, he loses the ball a lot, like Jaylen Brown, right? And that was the biggest knock on him on offense over the years, along with his 3-point consistency.
He's fixed it. He's fixed it a lot.
Like I've seen, like his ball handling and his ball control in total, like in general, is a lot better this year. He's a natural athlete. He's really good at getting to the rim, getting, you know, drawing fouls.
Right.
He's not the best passer in the world. Siakam's better.
That's the gap. That's actually not even like, it's not that. I think you're underselling it to make your point.
No, he's way okay. Siakam's a way better passer. I'll agree.
And also, like I do believe that Jaylen Brown has concentration issues on defense. I watched the finals.
Yeah, he does. And also the bubble with OG hitting the shot. Yeah, that was his guy, I think. But
it was.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Jaylen Brown to me is better because, first of all, he's younger. Second of all, he is just a more natural scorer. A guy that can actually, you know, like when I watch Siakam sometimes, like unless he's on his hot streaks, he does a lot of the same things as he's always been, you know, always done, like back guys down from 15 to 17 feet out and, you know, spin into a triple team or a double team.
Yeah.
What has helped his game a lot more is that he's become much more of a willing passer out of those scenarios.
Yeah.
But he's just very rigid with the ball, like in terms of his handling. It's gotten a lot better, but he's not as smooth and polished as a guy like Jaylen Brown, right? And Jaylen Brown, if I'm willing to put the ball in somebody's hand in the last minute or so of a game, for me, it's Jaylen Brown. That's where I see guys' value the most, like in pressure situations.
Like honestly, like right now, if I could drop either one of them onto a team and I need to get a win right now, I gotta say I picked Siakam. It's
Okay.
not by much, but it's by enough that I'm comfortable saying that. And I am just saying that like as probably one of Siakam's biggest critics on earth. Like I think I think I'm up there. I I don't I think the gap is I think basically you're talking about the 16th best player in the NBA and like the 23rd best player in the NBA. And stylistically, yeah, you could say Jalen Brown's game is just probably a lot prettier to watch, but you know he can't really pass, so he's always going to be relegated to a secondary scorer. And he can't even like he was their best player, you could argue in the finals,
Mm-hmm.
but that's because he was supposed to be. Like that's what the Warriors wanted. The Warriors
Let me ask
just
you a
wanted
question.
that to happen. Go ahead.
So the way the Celtics plays, it reminds me a lot of how Golden State plays. A little bit, not 100% similar. Their game is very fluid, and they move the ball a lot, and the people move a lot as well. So can't you make the argument that watching the Raptors play on offense and Boston, there's not really a big propensity for one guy to pass the ball and make decisions on
No,
Boston?
absolutely. Look, the Boston Celtics have, you know, a much better system in place. I think Al Horford would pretty much like the difference between Al Horford and Christian Coloco is like I don't need to put it into words for you, right? It's a
Yeah.
big gap, right?
Yeah, there is.
The bench, Malcolm Brogdon, you know, in all honesty, Malcolm Brogdon and Fred VanVleet could be a debate, like a legit debate, like a very legitimate debate. And he's their backup point guard.
Yeah, he's good.
There is a huge talent gap because unlike the Raptors, the Boston Celtics absolutely invested in their core. And that's why they're so good this year, in my opinion, a lot. Like, even though like a lot of those pieces haven't quite panned out, Danilo Gallinari, for instance, like being injured, but Robert Williams is back. They're going to implement him, right? But Malcolm Brogdon is a huge addition to that bench. He's been a huge stabilizing force. And yeah, he's not a perfect defender either. And it's going to change your identity a little bit. They made Derek White. They made a trade last year. And I think that really shored up their core.
Mm-hmm. I get, yeah.
The difference here is ultimately how do the Raptors feel about Siakam versus how do the Celtics feel about their young duo, right? And if our duo, you know, technically our duo from the bench mob is Fred and Pascal, I would say that the Celtics and Brad Stevens and the Celtics have shown a considerably greater deal of faith in their duo than we have in ours. Because in all honesty, if you really, really believed, I'll tell you right now, if you absolutely believed that Siakam and VanVleet were like who they're presented to be, I'm pretty sure you trade that number 4 pick in 2020. Like,
of course,
I'm positive you trade it.
Of course.
2021. Because there's no room with a 27-year-old, you know, superstar and a 27-year-old all-star. If you really believe that, if you really believe it, if you're not just saying it, if you actually believed it, there's no way in hell, given the rumored packages that were available for that number 4 pick and, you know, the filler that you had to give up, there's no way in hell that you bring in Scottie Barnes. It just doesn't happen.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
This is something I want you to tell me if I'm out to lunch or if I'm onto something.
Sure.
So I made this theory, like with me and my friends, when we're talking about the Raptors in offseason. The reason why the Raptors didn't pull the trade for KD in exchange for, you know, a package revolving around Scottie Barnes is because they didn't believe in the remaining guys that would be on the team. And you're kind of alluding to that as well.
I think that you just end up in a very, very awkward fit with Siakam and KD. I just do. I think Siakam makes KD's life harder. If you're asking me, like if you go Siakam, KD, like I know some people think that's crazy, but I just think that you need to have shooters around Kevin Durant, and Siakam's not that. You need to have great decision makers around Kevin Durant, and I don't know if Siakam's that. And guys who can get there, like he would have to be kind of relegated back to his role that he was in 2019. And honestly, I think it's just what Alex and I were talking about, hedging, right? You adjust your timeline to absolute win now mode with Kevin Durant, right? And if that is in fact how you're going, well, you know, if the asset's going out to get him, because it's not just going to be Scottie, right? It would have been Scottie plus OG plus, you know, boatload of draft picks plus maybe Gary. Like you giving up like 3 starters.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, if you really believe that Siakam was a top 5 player as he believes, or he is aiming to be. I don't want to keep referencing, misquoting that. He said he wants to become a top 5 player.
Mhm.
So if you even believe that he was a top 15 player going into the season, because I do believe he's improved.
He
If you
has.
believe that, then name me another team that wouldn't pair their emerging top 15 player with a current top 5 player and think that they're going to win a championship? Because if Siakam is who you think he is, then Siakam Durant is better than Lowry Kawhi.
But the thing is, I agree. But the thing is, just look at that 2019 team. They were like 10 players deep. Like they're very, very deep team, and they had so much guys on that team with high basketball IQ, and that's why I wouldn't have made the trade, because we would have, like, there wouldn't be enough left on the team to really justify making that happen. Along with the fit of a guy like Siakam with Kevin Durant, spacing, shooting issues, and just a lack of depth on the bench. Like that 2019 team was extremely deep.
I agree with you. To those of you in the chat, I think someone said at some point, tired of hearing about Siakam. Let me know what you want to hear about. Gil was the guy who stayed late one of these shows, and obviously, like, he's really informed and seems to know a great deal. It doesn't seem like there are any more callers. If if there's somebody else who actually wants to call in, like, I'll just post the link here. But let me know in the chat, like, what do you guys want to hear about?
I have a question.
Sure. What's up?
Why is it that OG has this propensity to lose balance when he drives? Is that just a mechanics issue? Like, what is going on here? Like, because for me, when I watch him play, like, he's so big and strong, and he's explosive as well. Like, these type of things, like, what is it? Like, is it a coordination? Like, because he could be so much better if he just had a strong center, like, in terms of, like, having balance. Because he loses
he has really long legs. He has really long legs, very long arms. I believe so, yeah. I was reading an article on the biomechanics of Scottie Barnes, and they referenced, OG Anunoby as a very similar type of player. Obviously, Kevin Durant is a very similar type of player in a much bigger package, and he's nearly 7 feet tall, right? Sometimes long legs can make it awkward to move. I think with OG, it could also be the injury that he sustained in Indiana.
Yeah.
He never really moved the same after that. He was a very bursty athlete. Like, I remember watching him in AAU. I remember watching him in Indiana. He moved a little bit differently. He was never like smooth and shifty and whatever, but sometimes having long legs makes you very vertical. When you run, it makes you very vertical. With OG, there's also like a muscle imbalance. I think sometimes he's very tree trunky on the legs. That's why he can guard centers, right?
Yeah.
So he's kind of like a small forward trapped in like a really undersized center's body. Because he has, like, I mean, and weirdly enough, like, I mean, if you watch Ron Artest, Meta World Peace, or whatever he's called, I don't think anyone ever accused that guy of being like extremely smooth, right? Like when he ran, it wasn't fluid, right?
Yeah,
it's because he was 260 pounds. Like, I know OG is about 238 ish.
Yeah,
like roughly that's what somebody told me, 238, 239. It's a big dude. It's very difficult for him to be fleet-footed or whatever. And I think it's just I think it could be a skills thing too. Let's see. Okay, spammers, get out. Oh my god, gross. Sorry. Do I need a moderator for these chats now?
you probably do, Rob.
Probably do. I remember Scottie when he did his first Twitch stream, and you could just say whatever you want. Obviously, did not spam his chat, but like there were people saying all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And then we all messaged him. We were like, bro, you need a moderator. Obviously, these chats are not going into Scottie territory, but like as more people get into this, I probably need a moderator. Anyway, Jeff Doughton continues to be benched for no reason at all. Okay, guys, give us our final topic of the day, and I'll just pick one from the comments, and I'll flash it on the screen. Let's see here. Kawhi and sorry. Okay, guys, just a pitch. If you want to call in, you can call in. You have the link. But I want a topic. I want an interesting topic before we wrap up for the night and say goodnight. And can we please make it potentially an uplifting topic? Value of players. That's a really good. That's a really good thing. Well, that's interesting. A few months ago, I did a list of most valuable Raptors, kind of like least to most, and I went from 20 all the way down to 1. Now, color me surprised. Number 20, number 19, and number 18 were waived at camp. Number 17 made the team, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I believe my top 4 were Siakam, number 1, Barnes, number 2, OG Anunoby, number 3, Fred VanVleet, number 4, and my number 5 was Otto Porter Jr. Egg on my face right now. He's really been injured, but I really believed in him.
Yeah.
Who's my number 6? I feel like, does anyone remember who my number 6 was?
Precious.
It was Precious, actually. Oh, good memory. Yes, it was Precious, and then my number 7 was Gary Trent Jr. Do you see any reason to change any of that? Like, I think that's a good talking point here. So let me just write that into the chat.
Yeah. Let me
Right.
see
So
it.
so we go Siakam, Barnes, OG, Fred, Otto. Otto's gonna get booted. I'm pretty sure. People are very mad at Otto for dislocating his toe right now. Precious and Gary. So that was my 7. My number 8 was Thad. My number 9 was Boucher. My number 10 was Koloko. And I think that is where I'll leave it. So let's see. So I'm just going to pin that right there. Okay, so guys, now you have my initial in the summer, what I called my player value list. Let's discuss. Gil and I can discuss just before we wrap. I think this is a great discussion to have. Like right
Yeah.
at yeah.
Okay,
one second. Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to respond to this. If I could pick anyone, Michael Jordan. Yeah, Scottie's gonna be in for a long summer of shit talk, but he can take it. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So that's my 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do you see any reason to? Did you see anything that sticks out? Like, oh my god, what the hell?
The top 4 actually are good for me. I would swap. Okay. Yeah, I would swap Gary and Otto. And then, yeah, I would swap Gary and Otto, and then move Otto. Or no, keep Otto where he is.
Keep Otto at 5.
Or no. I would swap him with Gary, so it would be Gary 5.
Okay.
And then push Precious down to 7, I think, and then Otto 6. And then instead of Koloko, I would put Kem Birch.
Birch.
Yeah.
You think Birch has more value right now? This is a.
Oh, in terms of like value.
Yeah, this is value, not the best players. This is value.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Then Koloko.
Do you sort of have this list by now? Can I flash other messages?
Yeah. I have. Yeah.
Okay. So just so Ryan K says Siakam, Barnes, OG, Juancho. Whoa. Tell me you watched that Adam Sandler movie without telling me you watched the Adam Sandler movie. I love Juancho, but like, you kidding me? Juancho over Fred VanVleet?
Come on, man.
Yo, okay. I mean, that's interesting. Let me know your top 10. Like, order and feel free to go off the page here, guys. Like, there's 7 players not listed here. There's Justin Champagnie. There's, gosh, who else? There's Justin Champagnie. There's Jeff Doughton. There's Malachi Flynn. Has Malachi Flynn anything that he's done over the last few days? There's Delano Banton, who's a very young player. Yeah, like give me your top 10.
Okay, you know what I would actually switch? Sorry.
What's that?
Okay, so Gary and Otto, switch them, and then I would have Precious ahead of Otto as well, personally.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Bring Russ to Toronto.
Oh boy.
I honestly, I'm kind of like where I was back then. I think maybe with Otto's injury, it's really hard to tell if he's not, but like I really love what he could do for this team. I think he's so valuable.
Mm-hmm.
He's so good. Like, if you look at his analytics from last year, it's incredible.
Good.
And honestly, like I often look at teams, like we always dream of like trying to understand like how would this player play? I know he's playing this way in this system, but how would he play in another system? And it's like, look at the Warriors this year. Like, what's the big shift? It's like that's the gap between Jonathan Kuminga and Otto Porter, if you want my opinion. Otto Porter played 60+ games for the Warriors last year. He started a whole bunch of games, right? So he was closing a bunch of games in the NBA Finals. So like, I mean, this guy was a very big piece that they banked on their future, right? And so, yeah, I mean, like the Warriors are a great example of a team that's flashing their cards, right? If they really genuinely believed that Klay Thompson could make a comeback to the player that he used to be, I don't think they trade. I don't think they don't not sign those guys. They have deep pockets. They could have paid luxury, super tax again. Yeah, I mean,
I think Otto's great. Like, I never knew he was that good of a defender. He's an excellent defender. He's really good at rebounding, and he's just a great role player. Like, he knows exactly what his job is, and he does it to a T. And he's an excellent 3-point shooter. So
he's like a little card that makes everybody like 10% better, and it's just the spacing that we described earlier in the film session. Jonathan McLean says Barnes, Siakam, OG, Gary, Fred, Precious, Boucher, Otto. That's interesting. I don't see like.
Wait, I messed up. Since this is about value, I agree with this guy. I'm going to put Barnes number 1, Siakam number 2. If it's about value, I'm going to put him there.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I don't disagree with this. I guess I would just say I definitely think that Fred has more value than Gary. I know that it may not seem that way, but the guy has some fans in the league. He is an ex-All-Star that has some cachet to it. That has a lot more cachet than. I get the age gap. Like, maybe that's it, right? It's the age, it's the next contract, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it would be a stretch to say that Gary's. I think, yeah. I mean, Fred. It's the position of need. He plays one of the deepest positions. It's stacked with young players. I get it. Like, you might have fewer options, but I guarantee the ones that are actually options, like teams like Chicago, who may be on the breaking point of maybe losing their whole season, I think they would prefer a guy like Fred. But yeah, there's another one, which is Barnes, Siakam, OG, Fred, Trent, Precious, Koloko, Otto, Banton, Flynn. This one I really like.
Yeah, this is pretty good.
This is really good. Yeah, Andre, that's I really like this one. I think I'm finding it very difficult to disagree with anything here.
No, that's a solid list.
That is a really solid list. I think I might put Boucher over Banton, but that's just me. Like, I mean, but I might not. Like, I think Banton has a solid future. Like, there are a lot of young teams that are playing like tons of guys who are worse than Delano Banton. I'll tell you that right now. So it'll be interesting to see if that guy, if he can flash something. But yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Are these lists, by the way, are they like before the season started, or like current value of guys?
Current.
Okay.
These are all current. Jaden has Scottie, Siakam, OG, Gary, because of age, Fred, Otto, Precious, Koloko, Chris, Cam. Cam
I have a friend
more than Malachi. I doubt that, but yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I have a friend that thinks, like, he just texted me. He's like, "Yo, Gary is more valuable than Fred because of the lingering injury issues, and just the height of Fred VanVleet." But at the same time, I agree with you. Like, he's a point guard, right?
I don't necessarily think being a point guard helps them necessarily. I think like Gary has a more surefire role. And I mean, like, also, like, if you're bringing either one of these guys, you're probably a team that's trying to win, right? I mean, you're not trying to lose, right? Like, why would you bring a talent upgrade if you're trying to lose? And honestly, I don't know if teams necessarily, like, you would have to bring Fred off the bench, right? If you're like a really good team, you probably already have a guy at that position that you really like. Like, if the Philadelphia 76ers wanted to trade for him, is he starting over Maxey or Harden? Hell no.
No.
If the Bulls wanted to trade for him, he could start because Lonzo's out. But if Lonzo wasn't out, it would be a debate. If Golden State wanted to bring him, I think he fits really well with Golden State, right? And what they try to do. Is he starting over Steph or Clay? No. So you understand my point. Like, it's like you would have to understand that one of these guys is on the bench, and it's like, I would be worried about trading for Fred VanVleet and then bringing him off the bench. I feel like, maybe there might be some issues with that. But again, as I mentioned earlier, it's about selling things to your fan base, and ultimately, it's really easy to sell Fred VanVleet. Like, he's made a real name for himself. Like when you really read the bio, right? Like, okay, so here's this is gonna get dramatic. I don't want to get dramatic. Okay, let me just put it this way. I wrote something about Scottie Barnes on a Facebook group once, and somebody messaged me who knows Fred VanVleet pretty well, and he listed off his resume, right? He's just like, well, call me when Scottie does anything of relevance, and then he listed out Fred's resume, and I'm like, wow, that is impressive. A Finals MVP vote, NBA champion, All-Star, and I'm just hearing like how an opposing team's version of, Jack and Leo or Jack and Matt would sell it to their fan base,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be like, this guy's a savior. He's here. Like, he guarded Steph Curry, shut down Steph Curry in the finals. The narrative talking points of Fred VanVleet are incredible. And he talks a big game, and he is a hell of a player. And analytics love him. Analytics still love him. Even through his slump, he was still a very positive player. I guarantee you right now, I mean, I know that most people would definitely laugh at the idea of Jaylen Brown versus Fred VanVleet. The analytics would tell you that Fred VanVleet and Jaylen Brown are actually pretty comparable players. The eye test, not so much. The raw box score numbers, not so much. But, at the end of the day, if you're trying to sell Fred VanVleet as a very, very, very good player, there's plenty of evidence to bring to your fan base that you have traded for one of the top 40 players in the NBA, easily.
Where do you think he ranks in terms of point guards in the Eastern Conference?
In the Eastern Conference? I haven't thought about it. In the NBA, I would say comfortably outside the top 15. But like I feel like in the Eastern Conference, I mean, I don't know. Let me know in the chat. Like, is Fred VanVleet a top 8 point guard in the East? Like, I feel like, I mean, who are the guys? Like, let's kind of list them out here.
We got Drew Holiday.
So Holiday, I take Holiday. I take Holiday over Fred.
Yeah. We got Tyrese Halliburton.
That's not even.
Is Marcus Smart playing point guard for Boston?
Yep.
Okay, I take Marcus Smart.
It's close.
It
close.
is.
Very
close. I'll take
but
Marcus.
Garland.
Yeah, definitely.
Trey.
Yep.
Nice Trey. LaMelo. You got to take LaMelo, unfortunately.
Yeah, you have to.
I'm not a fan of LaMelo Ball at all, but you got.
This is an interesting one, Rob. Jalen Brunson.
I take Brunson.
Yeah, I would too.
Kyrie.
Oh, come
yep.
on. Yeah.
Kyrie. Yep. Rozier. I don't think so.
No.
I mean, Rozier's been awesome this year. Don't get me wrong. He's been really, really good.
Yeah, but I'm not sold on his. He's just not.
Better hey, I'll give you this. He's better than his. He's better than Lowry. I'll tell you that right now. He's a little bit better than Lowry, and I didn't think. I honestly believe that when the Raptors let him go, the Raptors let Lowry go, I was so pissed off because I was like, you know what? I know he's getting older, but I would have rather let go of Fred at that time.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily. I feel like this is why I'm not the general manager of the Toronto Raptors. Like, I get too emotionally involved, and that would have been wrong. Like last year, I believe like it was close, but this year it's like the gap is huge. Like Lowry has fallen off a cliff.
He has. Unfortunately.
Yeah. So I mean, right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 point guards.
James Harden.
We already have Maxey on this list.
You do? Okay, I didn't know that.
Both. Harden, Cade, Lonzo, Killian. Bro, no. This is too far. Did you just include Killian? Killian Hayes?
Oh man, yeah, he's a Pistons fan. Maybe
no.
But wait, Pistons. I have Pistons fans don't even like Killian Hayes, so I don't know.
Well, they need to bring this guy to Detroit. He will sign up like first seat. You know, he'll be in like front row center. Killian Hayes fan club. Look, there's like 2 guys in the world that like Killian Hayes: Danu and Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer. That is the only two.
Oh my god, I'm not the biggest Fred VanVleet fan in the world, but that's disrespect. Like that's
okay, guys. I'm gonna flash my list here of guys that I think are definitely better. Let me know if I've missed anyone in the comments. So here we go. So we got Holiday, Halliburton, Smart, Garland, Trey, LaMelo, Maxey, Brunson, Kyrie. Okay, Danu says it was a joke. Laugh my ass off. Thank God. We don't need to ship you to Detroit.
Ooh, somebody said they would take Fred over Brunson and LaMelo.
Cool. Like I think most people wouldn't because of age and because, like honestly, Joe Brunson's just been better this year. I don't know what to tell you. Like Fred,
they would
had a really off year, but
they said they would take Fred over them.
No, I get that, but that's what I'm saying. Like those guys. Someone says I'm not necessarily a fan of Melo. Maxey and Brunson are not better. DR, like, I disagree. Maxey's like 22 years old and shoots like blistering from 3. I understand that he's not a great defender,
No.
but I think his offensive, like, I mean, dude, did you watch the playoffs last year? Like, he burned us for 44 points as Fred VanVleet tore his jersey. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody, but that's legit. Like, he has shown you at a young age, like 21 years old, he already has more points than Fred VanVleet ever had in the playoffs.
I mean, Fred was injured in that series, but at the
Doesn't
same
matter.
time,
He hasn't been injured like 3 other times in the playoffs. He's never flashed that type of potential. Like, you need to consider this. Like, we're talking value, guys. We're not talking better. We're talking like, okay, well, actually, we are talking better. You're right. You know what? That's a fair point. Maxey probably is not better than Fred VanVleet. But if Maxey is not better than Fred VanVleet, is Harden better than Fred VanVleet? I think he is.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Palin says Maxey is not a good distributor, though. He's not great. I'll give you that much. He's not great. But I would argue that you've never really had to see him have to facilitate. And in all honesty, like, you might have argued that Fred VanVleet wasn't a great facilitator when he was playing next to Kyle Lowry. And if I'm the Philadelphia 76ers and Doc Rivers right now, if I have James Harden and Tyrese Maxey, I'm not giving the ball to Tyrese Maxey to facilitate.
Yeah, no. That's James Harden's
someone said suit. Ricky Rubio. So you think Ricky Rubio is better? You think Ricky Rubio is better than Fred VanVleet? He's not.
Yeah, he's not. No,
that's slanderous. Someone writes Brunson over Fred. Guys, yeah, for sure. Like what you're seeing right now from Fred, which is like that quick, assertive, going to the basket. You know, that's basically Brunson all the time. He's slightly bigger. It's not much bigger, but he's slightly bigger.
Oh, Brunson can really get to the rim. Like he's really good at finishing in the paint.
Markelle Fultz over Fred. Look, I love Markelle Fultz more than probably I should, but no, he's not. He I swear to God, like tonight, like he turned the ball over, like force. I don't think anyone can turn the ball over, but yeah. G-Man says almost every possession Hayes makes a great pass, his team can't finish. We still talking about Killian Hayes? Bro, what are you doing to me, man? Don't do this. He's not that good. I mean, look, he might have turned a corner at this point, but I will tell you that from a very large sample size over the last 2 years, he has not been very good. But, you know, he's a 6'5" point guard. I get it. I get if you're excited about Killian Hayes. I just think that this fan base deserves better. Cade Cunningham. I think Cade Cunningham has a lot more trade value than Fred VanVleet, but in terms of being a better player than Fred VanVleet, no, he's not. He's like virtually zero impact on winning. I think his team has been better without him. I'm being straight up. Like, his team has been record-wise, his team has definitely been better without him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, playing through Bogdanovich has helped them a lot. Trust me, if you swap Cade Cunningham for Fred VanVleet, like, we have like 6 less wins and they have like 4 more wins. Like, it's
guy,
big gap.
I wanted the Raptors to go after Bogdanovich in the offseason. I like his game a lot. Like,
see, that would be a win now move. That you would be showing the Raptors that you have
in the summer,
real belief in this core, but the Raptors themselves maybe don't have that kind of belief. Anyways, guys, this has been a really fun chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Gil, for coming on again, and thanks for being the last caller and extending it out almost like a co-host with me. I really do appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you have any final thoughts for the night?
No, this is a great show as usual, and I'll be back on the next one. Thank
you so much, man. And to those of you who put up with me excusing myself to sniffle every, and or are dealing with my somewhat congested voice, thank you so much for putting up with it. I hope this makes you feel a little bit better. I know that it can't be, it can't be what you expected. First of all, to those of you who went to the game, it must have been a bit of a bummer to not even see Steph Curry and to still not even see a win. I mean, my gosh, that would suck. And I empathize with all of you. So I hope that today's show was fun. To those of you who joined really late, when the stream goes up, make sure to watch the first 35 minutes. There's a lot of insightful stuff about the Raptors offense, and Basketball Zone and I, we did, Leo from Basketball Zone and I, we did this really cool breakdown of it. So if you haven't checked that out and you joined the stream 25, 30 minutes into it and you maybe missed that, definitely go back and check that out if you have some time. I really do appreciate it. To all of you who did the super thanks or the super chat stuff. We've never had a super chat before, guys. I don't think we've ever had a super chat before. So that was really cool and really, I'm really gracious and thankful for that. And yeah, to all of you guys, good night. Thank you for staying up with me so late. And till the next one, peace.